this is for the one who ain't never had a love, yeah. This one's for the girl who don't feel like she's enough, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. This one's for the cool kid playing on the school team, crying to himself cause he never had the prom queen. Head full of wants, but they said it's just a pipe dream, yeah. This one's for the kids like me, they never had one day. The ladies always turn their cheek, but they ain't let the fat ones sing. This was for the kids like me, kept working when they had nothing. When people try to take their dreams, they stuck it to them, please don't change. For the nerds and
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Alex Cuesta Show. How's everybody doing out there on this Friday, April 11th, 2025? I don't know about you guys, but up here in New York for me, it is wet. We have a chance of flurries. Not too happy about it. Had my daughter's soccer practice canceled or game canceled tomorrow. So things are happening up here. Spring is being spring over in the Northeast. And of course, the fake panic from people I've lived here the whole time talking about how, oh my God, it's cold. It's spring, y'all. This is what happens. It's cold in April. We get a lot of rain. May it starts to get nice. Like this happens every year. But we hear all the panic. It happens all the time. But I'm excited to be here tonight. We obviously weren't here Wednesday, and typically that's David's not here day. And it was like, oh, dope. We're doing Friday. You're off Friday. And he's like, no, I'm going to go get punched in the face instead. So he's doing his boxing thing over there. So I guess being healthy is okay. But we'll make fun of him anyway because he's not here. So we appreciate everyone that is watching wherever you are watching from, whether it is YouTube, Kick, Rumble, X, Facebook. We say hello to everybody out there. Please like, share, follow, subscribe, rate 5 stars, do all that good stuff. If you are listening to this later via podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon, thank you also. And make sure you give it 5 stars and leave us a comment because those are always important as well. We like those. So a few weeks ago, we had on James and Kay of Melee Games. We brought them back on, and it was fun debauchery. It's always good talking to James and Kay. Definitely go check out Melee Games. Check out that episode. That was the day of the Switch 2 Direct, and we talked all about it, the price point, and while that's still going on well over a week later, where we're talking about the price point and stuff with the Switch. So real interesting stuff. Go back there and give it a listen. But this week, for episode 160, I'm excited to get this gentleman on. I messaged him randomly because I saw he had a cool story, and cool enough to say he would come on. He is going to be our second J6er that we have had on the show, and I think that's awesome. I want to get them all to come on eventually. But let's bring him in. He is Siaka Massaquoi. He is an actor. He is the former LAGOP vice chair, and you're also a writer. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
You write for Daily Wire, and you're also on Fox News?
Well, no, I don't write for Daily Wire, but I've written, if you go onto my website, siakamassaquoi.us, you can see I've written for Red State. And the writer part of me, because that's what you say also in the entertainment industry, like I wrote for my sketch comedy group, What the Fact, wrote a couple of different flicks, I guess screenplays and all that good stuff. And yeah, man, you got to get involved in everything when you are in the new age of entertainment.
I mean, you always got to grind, right? Like that's the thing. Like you have to stay busy. You can't be like, until you make it, you have to be a jack of all trades. Like until like you make it and you find your niche, you got to kind of do a little bit of everything and spread it out there.
You know what, man? Even what I'm finding out is even when you quote unquote make it, you're still kind of on that hustle. It's just the level. It's like they say a new level, a new devil. Yeah. So it's just a new type, and you may have some more help. But like if you're somebody who's used to being super, creative and having your hands in the process, that doesn't really go away. You just have maybe more means behind it as you do it. So it doesn't stop. It doesn't stop.
Well, I mean, that's a good thing though, right? Because you got there, your creative juices are always flowing more when you're grinding a little bit.
Right.
half the time, like what people don't realize is a lot of creatives like do a lot of like psychopathics and right, but being exhausted is
Mhm.
very close to that same feeling. So when
Yeah.
like you're just beat, you're delirious, but sometimes you're doing your best work. Like, I'm an author, so it's like I'm constantly been working on my books and things like that here and there. I write my best when I'm exhausted, and then I go back and read it. I'm like, I don't remember writing half of this. It was still pretty good. Like I'm enjoying it. So
It wasn't. You didn't put it on GPT or Gronk, right? That was you
no,
sure that
no, I
wasn't.
don't listen. I've been working on this book for over a decade, so it's well
Okay.
over. That was really a thing. So no,
No, good
I'm
for
not
you,
a
brother.
fake writer. Maybe one day if I'm looking at something and it's funky, I might run it through one of them and be like, hey, sharpen this up a little
Right,
bit.
right, right,
But
right.
it's still like, so that's my thing with AI. Maybe we'll talk about this a little bit
Yeah.
because AI is weird. And I think if we use it as a tool to like sharpen up our already intellectual ideas, then it's not a bad thing.
Right, right.
I think it's bad when like people are relying on it to do everything
Right.
now.
Yeah. We actually shout out to my other podcast that I do called the New Hollywood Show with guys from Hollywood for Freedom. We're actually banned or suspended on X, which is crazy. But we don't
It's
really
always
go.
fun.
Yeah, we don't even really do that much crazy stuff. But we had a guest on that talked about AI, and one thing that was really interesting because he was or he is he does art design for films like from Spider-Man 1 and 2 to
Nice.
like the Dune movies and all these different amazing projects. And his take on AI really actually shifted my view on it. Was like you said, like use it as a tool because it's gonna be here, right? And if we just act like it's kind of like the Pony Express, if they act like no, we'll be better than the mail service with wheels, then you're just gonna be obsolete. So you learn to use it. I mean, I got a 1-year-old son and a daughter coming. It's like that's going to be their world. So I should
Congrats.
learn how to like. Thank you, sir. But I should learn how to use it so that they can use it as an effective tool, not as a handicap, and actually lose their ability to create on their own, right? Like let
Absolutely.
it proofread, let it maybe help you with the sentence structure, but it shouldn't create for you.
And that's the thing too. Everyone has like a big fear of AI, right? Like we
Right.
saw with the Studio Ghibli whole entire like anime recreating thing, artists were freaking out. And I don't blame them too much because it looked really good, right? It looked like the
Right.
Studio Ghibli style. But at the same time, at this point in time with AI, it mimics. It takes
Yeah.
what's already there and then will do it and maybe do it just as well, but it's not creating anything original. So as long as your original works are out
Yeah.
there, like it can't be the creatives that we are. It can't think of our things you can ask it to like write a story in somebody's style and it'll come back and it'll be good, right? Like I can tell it to write a story about like Sauron's unknown kid from the Lord of the Rings and bring this in, and it'll give you probably something similar to what Tolkien would have done, right?
I like that
Never
you
is.
I like that you went to Lord of the Rings. I literally watch all those fanfic little topics on YouTube all the time. I
I
found
am
a great
terrified of
page.
fanfics
Uh,
because I'm an anime manga fan, and anytime you get like fanfics, it automatically gets gross with anime manga community.
yeah, that's a different space. They're a little debaucherous, but no, you should check it. Like they have this story. This was like a story time. It's all made up, but it's very close to what they do. They do a pretty good job. And actually, to your point on to your point when it comes down to originality, right? I've noticed that with a lot of these. I even watched like the Star Wars what ifs and the and shout out to your Dragon Ball use right there. I was like, I like
Oh
this guy already.
yeah.
I used to
I
watch
gotta
him
open up
butcher it.
with Goku. Gotta
Yeah,
open up the whole thing with Goku. He's the
yeah,
goat.
he is the goat, right? And so when I watch these things and I see their creativity and I'm watching it in there, it's like you have Hollywood, which we've seen what they've done. We see them lose creativity. We see them more focused on the message than that. And I can sit there and watch like hours and hours of these fanfics that they put their actual passion into about IPs that I care about. And I'm more excited to like rest up and like get ready to go. Let me turn this on and watch like a 30-minute or hour of this guy who kind of like what did Gandalf and Sauron have a conversation about, as opposed to whatever the next blockbuster, as opposed to Snow White that just came out, where you're like, nah, man, you took out the heart. So I'm with you. I think
Or
that.
even Rings of Power from Amazon, which
Oh
had
yeah.
nothing to
Oh
do with Lord of the
man.
Rings. It was awful.
That was just so bad. I mean, I'm 100% with you, bro. I think that all this is going to do is expand out, and the ones that will hit, it won't be because everything visual is kind of like what they say about players in the NFL. And I also, because I played college ball. And when you get to that
Nice.
level, like everyone, for the most part, majority of people are athletic. When you get to the league, everyone's athletic. The ones that stand out are ones that like put in that extra work into the game, the ones that watch the film a little longer, the ones that, pick up tricks of the trade. I think now, because visually we're being stimulated so much, it's not going to be like, oh, well, it's just a beautiful thing. It's going to be, what's the heart, right? And if you can get to the heart of it, that's what's always going to capture humanity,
And what's
regardless of what it is.
crazy, think of it this way from a football perspective, right? Because I played ball in high school too, but it's like, imagine watching film with AI in the future when you're sitting there and say there's a broken play, right?
Right, right.
The coaches can automatically go, okay, in AI, here's what you should have done when they did this. And you can watch yourself
Mhm.
making a correction real time, right?
Right,
Like,
right.
that's going to be wild stuff. Or like you're
Well,
running back, you read the wrong hole. Okay, AI is going to show you where you should have went.
yeah,
And you
and
can like learn visually from that. It's going to be a tool that we can use.
well, and to that point, right? That's how video started, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So they had film, so they could
Mhm.
start to go. And the guys who started using film first, I think Lombardi really jumped on it first.
Yeah.
When you start using film first, now you can take your game to the next level. But the
100%.
guys still had to get out there and execute, right?
Yes.
And then
Yes.
you fast forward, and I know a lot of my friends, and I even did this when I started, taking up golf with my phone. I'll set it up, and next thing you know, I'm watching my swing in real time, and I can adjust right then. But it
Yep.
still took me to execute the adjustment, so it doesn't actually take away. It would, I think, it will boost if we use it the right way, and I think it's still, in order to capture again the heart when you talk about entertainment. We use it the right way, we can just take it up to the next level. You still have to be the creative in order to execute the vision of what you want to see. So I'm actually excited that it's going to give more people options, so that you don't have to move out to LA or
Yep.
New York, and you can create great stories right where you're from. And I'm looking for more American stories from people all around the country, really.
Anyone that has the ability to create the app that I just did about like the football correction thing, you're welcome. Just give me 5%. I'm not even asking for 10, just 5%. Send the
It's
checks my
probably
way because that
the,
was my idea.
the NFL probably already has that, man. We probably don't know
Probably,
yet.
we probably have no idea.
Yeah,
So my boy Nate G coming in saying, best thing Tolkien Estate did was not let Amazon have the rights to Baron, Luthien, and Juan. Yes,
exactly.
100%. And here's the thing, and it's the Tolkien estate gave them the rights to the second age because there's barely anything written on the second age. So they were able to take it and turn it into this nonsense right now. That
Well,
you see.
what they
It's terrible.
actually only had the rights to was the appendices, which
So
is
that's
that's
why there's no hobbits,
yeah,
no
because in the
stupid Harfoot
appendices was
nonsense.
even worse. Like, it was just like the appendices was just like, you had to have known a lot of the other stuff, right? And so you saw them take it and then go a whole different way with it. They didn't really even give them, because the Silmarillion is where first and
Yep.
second, even first and second age, that's where all the stories are, and that's like even more specifically about like where Sauron, like now
Yep.
you've gone
Oh,
into
we
my
can nerd out.
super nerd.
Listen, and even with
That,
the Silmarillion, like the Silmarils, they touch on the start of the second age, and you
yeah,
get the lost stories of the Middle Earth. You kind of get a
yeah,
little bit
you get
more
all
of it,
in
but it's
there.
mostly just loose stories.
Yeah,
Like
so it's
it's
like it's
tough.
pieced
It really
together.
is. Yes.
To me, I like to call it like the history book of Middle Earth, right?
It's
And
the
so
Bible. The
it's the
Silmarillion's
Bible.
a Bible because the beginning with Iluvatar is the
Yeah,
creation story and
yeah,
a
oh
different
yeah.
telling that Tolkien did where he's using the music to rise up
Hmm.
and things like that. And that's like the
Melkor
creation.
coming in and
hun-
being like,
Listen, Tolkien does the
jealous.
beauty. He does the beauty of like blending like a lot of like similar to like Greekish mythology with
Right, right,
the
right.
the basically the angels coming down to play God down as it's Tolkien's a
Well,
genius. He
and
really
he
is.
actually, his what he wanted to do was create a mythos for native born Britons.
Yep.
That's why he did it. So
Yeah.
I mean, he came up with all the languages that are used in D&D and all this stuff now. Like, it's crazy.
What's
It's
and
crazy.
what's nuts too is it's like just like the clash between him and C.S. Lewis because like they had like similar concepts in a way, but C.S. Lewis was so much more of a Christ follower, where Tolkien believed in it and it was fine. We'll get to some of those comments. Those comments are
Yeah,
hilarious, Siaka.
yeah, that's
But
funny.
we'll Tolkien, he wasn't as close to God, and he thought C.S. Lewis was kind of crazy with the way that he wrote. But they both wrote such amazing things and such good allegories for what they were trying to get
Well,
across.
Tolkien actually helped C.S. Lewis come to Christ.
Yeah, but
So
C.S. Lewis then took it to another level.
yeah, he
Which was
took it to
quite
another, but he Tolkien was like very, and I think he wrote about his time in what was it? His time in World War I really kind of
yeah,
opened his eyes to all this.
yeah.
That's why I was like the idea of a true good and a true evil was like right there. Like that was really big.
So we're gonna get to our nice little trolls right here. I'm here for them. So tariffs or taxes coming in saying it's not an American story to trespass on our capital for your information. So Siaka, I'll handle this one real quick.
Oh,
Our capital, right? That dude just said our capital, the People's
exactly.
Capitol building. So
They
honestly,
don't even know what
it's
they're saying.
the People's Capitol building, unless you're entering into the chamber. So here's the thing, and here's the fucked up part about that whole entire day. If you're not entering into the chamber, and even if you are, there's always a gallery where people can go and sit and watch these going on because that is the people's house. Okay. So if Siaka walked into the front without any intention, regardless of what's going on behind him, and we'll hear your story about
Mhm.
J6, there was nothing illegal about what he did. Sorry, I like, and maybe the FBI, Biden's former FBI, would have came and found me for that, but I'll
Oh,
say
they
that flat
definitely
out.
they
For people
definitely
that
would
just
have.
walked in, you know what? If you were being an asshole at the Capitol and stuff, whatever, things happen. But if you're just walking through, that's the people's house. We're allowed to walk in there whenever the hell
Well,
we
and
want. I'm
and
sorry.
actually, I only just stood in the doorway for 71
Yeah,
seconds, and
I
when
read that. That's it. And then you were
and,
asked to leave and you left.
and I was like, okay, I left and passed on
Deuces.
the comment, the directive to the people behind me. So, like most of these guys, they don't know what they're talking about and just
Yeah.
drinking the modern day Kool-Aid. But to that point of it's not an American story to trespass. Actually, Thomas Jefferson said when your government is tyrannical, it's the people's duty, not
Yep.
want, or maybe it's their duty to stand up and overthrow that government. So,
Listen, you
and
expect
we're
these
gonna find
people
out.
to the people like that have barely read the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. So ask them to read the Federalist, Anti-Federalist, and Missives of the
Exactly.
Founding Fathers is a lot to do. And we're coming back with our friends, tariffs or taxes. Can you call yourself an actor when you never really had an acting gig? Anyone would know. Well, here's the thing, you know.
I
So
know,
thanks,
right?
tariffs.
Well, I
Like,
mean, you can go check out my IMDb, like just because again, I don't live in your small world, buddy. Like you can go check out a bunch of stuff. Like there's when I was on set with Shamar Moore, like him and I knew exactly who we were and what we were doing. So
the
let
thing
me
is,
tell
it's one of
you.
those things. The people that need to know. Okay,
Exactly. They like
and
like,
that's
oh
it.
man, wait, you don't know? No, no,
Mm.
now I don't have all the work that I've been doing and I don't have projects coming up. Damn it.
Maybe the makeup was heavy in the
Damn it.
one movie you
Yeah,
saw. Like,
yeah. And you missed it. It was
oh
me. It
man, it
was
was
me.
me. All right, so before, like, I'm already enjoying the
Yeah,
conversation.
that's
Before we
good. Me
go any
too.
further, I want to give a shout out real quick to my boy Brandon Scoopy Robinson. Before we jumped into AI, I was going to do it, but I'm doing it now because that's the fun of having your own show. My boy Brandon Scoopy Robinson. If you would love for everyone to go, give him a subscription, subscribe over on his YouTube page, and scroll down. And right here is his new mini doc series. It's only 21 minutes long. It's a Scoopy
From the
original. It's
original
on
tax
mute, so
experts,
we're
this
okay
is
here.
H&R
But
Block
it's called the
Online.
Freeze Out Inside the NBA
DIY
85
tax prep
All-Star
designed
Game,
with
NJ
you
Isaiah
in mind.
Controversy. Go give this a watch if you're a ball fan.
Simple
Shaka,
steps,
you said you're from
guide
Chicago.
the
You're
way.
going to go
Oh,
check
yeah.
this out later?
Oh,
And
yeah, I'm definitely gonna
unlimited
watch this.
expert help.
I was a huge fan, like a huge Bulls fan growing up. Still a Bulls fan, right? Watching the new team now with
Indianapolis,
Josh Giddey doing his
1985.
thing. And
Yeah.
Hoosier
oh,
Hardwood.
actually, I can hear
The
that.
Hoosier Dome
can you?
packed
'Cause
with
it's muted from my side.
43,000
Oh,
strong.
yeah, no.
All right, we're getting out of here then.
That's all right. No, that's all good. And I want to wait and watch it, so I don't want to be distracted. But
So I'll just put it.
yeah,
It'll be still screened right there. You'll be teased.
yeah, no. So I met Michael Jordan when I was 10 years old.
That's pretty dope.
My big brother at the time, they used to do business together and play poker together. So he one
That's
day,
pretty wild.
yeah, he picked me up like on a random Thursday, and he was like in the Big Brother, the Big Brother Big Sister program.
Okay, yeah,
So
yeah.
he's my big brother from that
Gotcha.
standpoint, not blood. So he came and picked me up on a random Thursday. He's like, told my mom, he's like, hey, I want to take him to something special real quick, and drove me up to further north to like the more wealthy part of the area that we grew up in. And I'm hanging out with this kid. I was 10, right? So I was in 5th grade and hanging out with this kid. He had all the Nintendo games, and then all of a sudden, my big brother goes, hey, come here, check this out. I want to introduce you to someone. And like just chilling in the kitchen, arms crossed, legs long. He's just like, and I'm like,
Awesome.
oh my goodness. And I'll never forget I go up to him and I shake his hand and I introduce myself. He's like, hi, I'm Michael. I'm like, I know, I'm Siaka. And I'm shaking it, and he goes, "So you're gonna shake my hand forever?" I was like, "Yep." I goes,
And his
"Yeah,
hands were gigantic, weren't they? He
yeah."
had
I'm
big
like, "Of
hands.
course I am," No, but it was cool. And then we just started like kind of talking. He was very relaxed, and it was a nice little time. And then a nice little roundup of the whole thing. So I'm going to the games because my big brother had like great seats, so we go to
Yeah.
the games all the time. And then in 1997, 98, when my senior year, I was in student council as well, and his mom was traveling around the schools in the Chicagoland area, and I actually then got to meet his mom at like a special little luncheon for the event that she was speaking at.
That's
She was going to
incredible.
speak at the assembly that they did. So I'm like, of course it didn't make sense when I look back at it. I'm like, of course she's like, a lot of people say I met your son, but I was like, hey, I met your son when I was 10. She was like, oh, nice. I'm like, oh, well, that's not really a big deal. So
I'm one
but
of
for
I'm
me,
one of thousands.
I'm 1,000. But to me, it was a nice like bookend to like the whole
Yeah.
Mike, because that was also his last year playing for the Bulls too. So it was pretty cool.
Your brother probably has some really good stories about him in
Oh
poker
yeah.
because of just his competitive nature and the gambling that everyone knows about. And it's like it's crazy to think Michael, Kobe, so many of these players, they wouldn't survive today. Like they're getting mad at John Morant for the gun symbol, whatever, the
Gun
chalk
symbol.
on the ground. And here's my thing in the NBA. Number one, guns are legal. Okay. He wasn't pointing it at anyone. So it's a two-way thing.
Right.
Number two, you call the thing that you do to try and score a shot. I'm sorry, that's the oldest celebration in the book, right?
That's
The
funny.
oldest celebration is
That's
like being
funny.
a gunslinger, especially when
Right.
you're a
Yeah. Yeah.
shooter. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so it's like to get mad at a player for taking a shot and simulating shooting, dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life.
Well, that to me, that's just another example of this feminization of our
It's
culture, but let
wild.
alone our, basketball has actually been leading the way on that. If you even watching these guys and what they've been dressing like over the last 10 to 15 years, it's just gotten worse. They're pretty much wearing, long versions of female like pantsuits a
I
lot of
do think
times.
some players are pushing against it though, because you're
Yeah.
seeing
Oh
Moxie
yeah.
coming back. You're seeing guys like
Yeah.
Isaiah Stewart who's pushing against it. You're seeing players who are still trying to bring because basketball is a physical game. Basketball
Yeah.
is a game where I
At least
I
it used to be in
love
the 90s.
I love 90s ball. I love
Yeah.
90s ball where it was physical. Like Steph Curry would have been a great player then. He still would have been a shooter, but he doesn't get any inside points. His
I don't
little
know if
ass
he
would have been on the
survives.
ground.
Yeah, I don't know
Yeah,
if he
well,
survives as
he would
long
have
as
been
he
his
has.
dad. He would have been a better version of his dad. Del Curry was a
Yeah.
lethal three-point shooter before it was like very big. Like there was Larry Bird doing it,
Right,
and there
right,
was
right.
very few. Dell was one of them. Steph would have been a much better version of his dad. I still think he would have been the three-point king. I think that was, but all his little dribbles and going getting cutesy in the paint.
Yeah,
You would
no.
have had someone like Charles Oakley just throwing him into the third row. Like it
Stand
would have been like
stand in the way like Bill Lambert. Oh my goodness, that'd have been over.
oh my god! And
It'd have been
dude,
over.
Lambeer was a dog.
Yeah.
Lambeer
That's all he
did
did.
not care. Yeah, he
Yeah.
wasn't there to play
Yeah,
basketball.
could he shoot? I don't know if he could even shoot.
I think he was pretty good at layups when he was like 2 feet
Yeah,
away.
like right there. Yeah, when you're that tall, you better be at least good at layups. Like, come on, man. Well, and so you're right. The pushback's going to happen, but just
Yeah.
like we're seeing in all the different other aspects, as they push back, you're going to see like responses that are going to be pearl clutching. We'll get through that, like we have
Well,
gotten through
Adam
the last
Silver's
4 years.
terrible.
Yeah,
He is the worst commissioner, and the fact that they call their owners governors. Like, I'm sorry, no one elected your owners, yo. Like
wow,
that's it. Like governors are elected officials. Like
wow, that's
nobody
weird.
elected your owners. They bought a team.
They got to go
Oh,
through a big restructure of how the game goes, because people pay the pay to go to these games. I think they're going to be real trouble, especially with the tariffs that's going on with China, and China trying to manipulate their currency with dropping it right now. And a lot of that had to do with with how these big contracts are able to sign for the NBA. I
mhm.
think that's okay. I think these players need to play. I mean, we talk about Michael Jordan. He missed only a handful of games in his career, let
He
alone
wanted to
every
be out
season.
there.
He wanted to be out there. So
Yeah.
we're gonna they're going to survive based on if they get back to what works. So like NFL is still number one for a reason, because you're hidden. It's a violent sport. I know they're trying to
For
soften.
now.
Yeah, for now they're trying to soften it down, but I think that it's really hard for that sport to truly turn away from what it is. And I think if these other sports want to compete, like it's gonna have to get away. I mean, you saw NHL drop the pride flag stuff, which people love, and they get their fans are solid. I mean, you see,
Individual teams are still maybe doing it, but it's not a
yeah,
league-wide thing. Like
yeah,
the league, like individual teams may do it. And here's the thing. I would love to start going to Pride nights and just being like, yo, we're celebrating the covenant, right? Like
Yeah,
that's the thing. Conservatives
there you
need to
go.
start going back and
Yeah,
reclaiming the flag. Like
exactly.
the fact that Christians, not even conservatives, Christians have
Christians
given away the
specifically.
flag. And there's a reason why the gay activists chose the flag, because it was to mock Christianity. That was the
Of
whole
course.
purpose
Of
of
course.
choosing the flag. So that's one thing for me. Like every time I see a rainbow now, I'm like, oh, sweet, it's the covenant. I told Lila and my kids, like, it's the covenant.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. That's
we're gonna
smart.
go see King of Kings tomorrow night.
Well, here's the
I'm
thing though,
excited for
too.
that.
Here's the thing though, too. Their flag is actually not the 7 colors that's in the
Nope,
rainbow. It's 6. So it's
it's
actually a
intentional.
Marxist. Yeah. So it's not even the real rainbow,
Mhm.
right?
No,
So and at one point on the basketball point, it's like because he was I saw Nate G saying MJ's last year he was getting his knee drained after every game. Yeah, he but hit MJ's final
and he
year,
played 82 games, I think, or
82
something.
games,
Yeah, yeah.
and his last year, the NBA was at its highest ever. And right now, the face of the league in LeBron James, the king, the NBA is at its lowest ratings, in decades. So it's like you see why
Eh,
that is. Like
it's a
he
problem.
took the game. Yeah,
Well, they're not in the NBA. Like, I get it. LeBron James, I listen, LeBron James has his faults, but he to me is 1B, right? There's Michael's 1A, 1B because I don't think Michael's the best winner to ever play the game. LeBron may be the most talented guy to ever touch a basketball. There's him, Oscar Robertson, because you look at LeBron in every year of his career, and I don't think there's another player that could say he's top 5 in all 5 positions. Like, he really is. Like, he's probably one of the
yeah.
best point guards. Like, shooting guard, he could score when he wants. Small forward, he's the best every year. Power
Well,
forward, center,
you
like
know, you
he's
know what it is.
so
Okay,
overall.
it goes back to the beginning of our conversation when it comes to AI. One of the reasons like I put Kobe above LeBron is because of the heart. And so that's what sports comes down to. Yeah,
But
you
they're
can create,
different. I don't doubt
but
LeBron. I don't, because
you can great. Oh, I
he's more
doubt him all the
magic.
time.
He's
Uh,
more magic than he's
no,
Kobe. He's
like
more Magic
LeBron
Johnson.
flops. He flops at
Oh,
the
yeah.
wind blowing past him. He needs, all like superstars next to him in order to just, and every time he doesn't have it, he complains. So like that's the intangible, right? Like, so the idea is imagine like you're playing NBA 2K or whatever, and you create the best guy, and we go out there and you play it. But if the guy doesn't have that heart element, just like I was saying with AI,
Yeah.
yeah, you can be like, yeah, it's structurally it is good, but like, is it really that good? I go, no, I'm still gonna go
I
back
mean,
to
we
MJ
can
and
debate
and
so much
Kobe,
because
and it's like,
MJ had Scotty,
and he
MJ
didn't,
had
but
guys,
he had
Kobe had
he
Powell and Shaq. Like
yes, but he did
they
have,
all need superstars. They
but
do.
he had a killer instinct. LeBron
He did.
doesn't have a killer instinct. LeBron, if you think about it, LeBron, how many last second shots does LeBron really take?
He doesn't take much. No.
Exactly.
But again,
That's the difference.
but that thing is,
That's what makes you a GOAT. You put it on your back. That's I grew up in the
listen,
90s.
I
It's like
agree.
when I play football, I'm like, give me the ball every time, not like, okay, now let me go over here. Everyone says it's the
Yeah.
best basketball play, and maybe it might be. But when Dwayne Wade took it upon himself to win the Heat's first championship,
Yeah.
what did everyone say? Oh my goodness, that's the next Michael. They weren't saying like, he should have passed it out. Like that's the heart element. That's that little twinge. That's what sports
I
is
agree.
like.
I agree.
Gladiatorial games, like it's war, right? It's the safest war. So we want to see the heroes, and LeBron for having all those intangibles shrinks in the big moments, and not all the big moments. I shouldn't say that, but you get him to the free throw line, it's over.
That's true. He's not great. He's not great in the clutch, but that's why
It's like,
people love Anthony Edwards right now. Anthony
yeah,
Edwards has that killer.
he does.
John
He
Morant
does.
has that killer. There's
Right.
guys that have that are Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, like
Yes.
even Jokic, Nikola Jokic. The game's on the line. You put it in his hands, he scores. Like, he puts
Exactly.
it in.
And so that's that X factor to me that supersedes the type of, again, your Madden created type of
Yeah.
player who has all 99, but like if the person can't execute, then you're like, but that's just me.
Listen. This
Kobe
is
was he was the Mamba, dog. He was the
Here's the thing.
Mamba. You couldn't. He was like,
I'm not putting Kobe over LeBron. Kobe. Here's
oh,
why I can't. Kobe's not even the best Laker of all time. So you cannot put him up there against one of the best players. Like that. I listen.
okay.
We
I
remember
mean,
Kobe better. Kobe will always be one of the top 25 players ever. Top 15, 10 maybe.
okay.
But he's not even the best Laker. So it's hard.
Well,
It's hard.
he's a better Laker than LeBron is.
Yeah, he's a better Laker than LeBron. 100%.
Yeah.
Is he a better Laker than Shaq? I don't know. Shaq was more dominant than Kobe when they were winning their championships.
Yeah. True.
So
True.
it's like you look at it. Kobe won 1 or 2 chips
Two.
without Shaq. 2.
Yeah. Too.
Okay, so
But
it's like
and
I'm
you
not
can
going to
say
knock
it was
Kobe.
only
Kobe's
Powell,
great.
right? It was only Powell,
Andrew Bynum in the first year was really good. Bynum with that center position was really good. Powell was complimentary.
Solid. He was
solid.
Yeah, he
Lamar
wasn't a
Odom
top
for a minute.
3.
Lamar Odom was good when he was with him. It's
Yeah.
not like he had trash teams.
No,
I'm not saying he had like LeBron superstar teams. Like he didn't have Hall of Famers. Paul's a Hall of Famer. That's about it. But
Powell worked his way up there. But I thought you let me know what you think. I thought Powell was like when they got him, it was curving this way when they got him. Like it was slightly. Yeah, it wasn't like a huge curve down, but it was just a little little turn.
Yeah, no, listen, Kobe, like I said, I'm making it seem like I'm knocking Kobe. Yeah, Nate with the
that's great.
And Diddy Parbies will get you flopping. Yes.
I mean, that alone I put him below Kobe. Like, come on, man.
Listen,
if it comes out what we think.
If it comes out that a 6'9", 260 dude was getting Cosby'd at a Diddy party, I'm not here for others.
Oh no! That's some Hollywood stories I'll tell you about later. Maybe not this episode.
They banned CeeDee Lamb's no swipe celebration for violence, which again they're going crazy.
Yeah.
Here's the thing too, and here's what I've said about sports. Sometimes when these dudes get fined, they just need to say no, right? Like, and the team needs to back them. Yeah. Like when the NBA fine, like for a no swipe, are you kidding me? This Cowboys should be like, no one's paying the league money. CD, do not pay him.
Right.
And he'll be on the field and he'll be dressed. Do something about it, because some of the stuff you need to push back. Like it's like our government. We were talking, right? There's sometimes you just have to push back, and these umps, refs, but they've gotten so lazy because of replay. I hate replay. I want to get replay out of all sports. I want it gone.
Sports, huh?
I want challenges. I want them out, because officials know that they don't have to get it right anymore. There's no emphasis on getting it right away. We see less getting together, less changing that call because, we'll just go to replay. They'll fix it.
Well, even to that point, like when everyone's seen what it is, they'll go to replay and still come back and go, nope, it's all right. And everyone's like, wait, what? Like, then what was the point of replay if you're going to get it that wrong in replay? Like the phantom pass interference calls they always give like the Chiefs so they can get
I'm a Jets fan, so it's like Jets made a good play, let's call holding. Like that's always like the Jets thing is like, they just got 30 yards, they're not allowed to do that. Holding.
They can't do it. Well, and that's the thing, they can call holding on every play if they want to. Like everyone knows if you watch a game, somebody's holding somebody. Like, come on.
It drives me wild though when they call holding on the only guy with his elbows in and like an actual proper like thing. It's like, you didn't hold. That's actually what you're taught to do. Get under the pads, elbows in.
And so now he's like, I don't know how to play. How should I play the game? Yeah, it's so
oh my god.
It's like because they do this thing where the refs can't be wrong, and then they'll make an apology afterwards, and it's like, no, dude, if you did it right now, like let it happen. I'm saying afterwards, like days later.
Oh, I hate
days later. They'll be like, yeah, we got it wrong. I'm like, well, that just cost the team the playoffs, man.
I'm cool with that as long as those refs get fined. Like that's the thing. Yeah. Don't let me know unless you're going to fine them. Like if you're I hate the NBA 2-minute review because you're talking about that shit. If they're going to do that, okay, then fine the refs. Don't tell me they made the mistake unless there's going to be repercussions of somehow.
Well, I think that's what leads to people, and I'm not saying I don't believe this or I fully do believe it, but a lot of people talk about things being rigged and it's a show. It's like it's sports entertainment according to your tickets. If you look at your tickets, it's like you're not guaranteed a competitive outcome. But I think if anything, the basketball would be easier for it to be like that because the refs have more of a sway on, point how calling a foul, then one team's in a bonus, and it could be like a 5-point swing with just one call. Where in NFL, if a guy holds, if a phantom hold call, the next play, you just throw a 20-yard pass and they make it up. So I
don't think they can. I don't think it's possible to truly rig the NFL with 11 players doing things and just the skill level's far too close from the best team to the worst team in the NFL to truly do that. Because if they're really trying, it can go terribly wrong, right?
Well, I think the only way they can rig it is putting their thumbs on the scale to weigh towards the team you want. Like I was just mentioning with the Chiefs, all you have to do is do that call. Everything changes. So it does the players for me. It's not the players because again, as you played football, if you're not playing 100%, you get killed out there.
You're going to get hurt too. If you're not playing 100%, you're going to get hurt.
You don't have time. But if they're up in New York saying, you got to call PI because we need the fumble with Tom Brady. I mean, everybody saw it was a fumble back in his first Super Bowl. The tuck rule, and it's like, the Patriots needed to go. It was 9/11 year. Like they needed to make us pro America. And it's like, okay, come on. because Rich Gannon and the Raiders should have went to the Super Bowl that year. I'll die on that.
Rich Gannon and the Raiders, and they would have probably won that year. That Raiders team was the best team in the NFL that year.
I love your guy Nate Dogg.
Oh, Nate's awesome. Hockey refs and the Big Ten football refs are absolute dog shit. Give me a test about refs. Dude, Nate's awesome. Nate definitely go hang out in Siaka's podcast. Nate's a blast. He's
Please,
awesome. He's always
yes. I got it's funny. I played for Iowa, so I was a Big Ten guy.
Oh, you played for Iowa? Nice.
Yeah,
What position were you over there?
Running back.
Oh, so you were getting hit every single play.
Oh yeah, I loved it too.
Listen, I was a running back, but in high school we had few good running backs, so I went and played receiver. Biggest mistake in my life. I would have been a spell back and I would have been fine because the offensive coach didn't like me, and eventually after a few games I was like, I'm gonna go play defense. Leave me alone.
Smart.
Yeah, I like hitting people. I don't want to get hit anyway.
Yeah. I'm done. You lay it down. That's good.
I was a safety. I would just come in full speed and just try to hit the running backs like you as hard as I can. I was that.
Yeah, guy. No, I like to dance. I was a dancer. As you can tell by my guitars back there, I like to play that.
There you go. All right, so let's actually get to some of the itinerary here because we have something to talk about.
Oh, that's right. We forgot.
Politics. We don't need to do a full sports podcast, even though I used to do a full only sports podcast. That was for a minute.
I mean, we could do a sports podcast. We could go like anime all day. We can go fantasy.
Listen, we can do a little bit of anything.
Yeah, we already started with those, so we can move on now to politics.
So NACO in Iowa, go Big Red. Oh, there you go.
Come on, man. And my best friend's from Nebraska, so I don't hate you that much, Nate. It's all good.
Not that much, just mostly.
No, not at all. I played in the just a little bit.
So do you still follow Iowa really closely in the football program and everything like that?
No, I actually don't follow college sports too much because to me, I don't know. I hit a point. First of all, I saw behind the curtain, so that, it's kind of like working at a restaurant. You don't drink out of the cups without a straw anymore. So to me, then I was like, I'm going to watch the pros because it's all the best players. Right. And so I just want to see the top notch. It's kind of like I don't watch WNBA because I'd rather watch NBA. I'm not saying college sports is WNBA, but I want to. Exactly.
No, listen, I always make the joke because I'm not a huge college guy either. And people I know, they're like, well, they work harder. I'm like, because they're bad at their sport mostly. Like, if you're being honest,
it's not even true.
Compare it to the pros. Yeah. When you compare it to the pros, most of those guys are just good, not great. Which is why they're not pros. No. So it's why, like, I can't watch most college basketball because you hear clang way too often.
Too much.
Like college football, there's so many different styles. That's what makes it interesting, right? Because you're having so many different offenses against so many different defenses. But some of it's a slog. Some of it you're just watching a few incredibly talented players. And you could see the men amongst boys, right?
Yeah. Like Michael Vick when he played, it was ridiculous. It
was like his brother, even Marcus. If Marcus wasn't an idiot, he would have been amazing in the NFL because he played his own life. Right. But he would have been another incredible player in the NFL. Like, and you see it like with Ricky Williams over at Texas. And, there's just certain guys that you just see, and that's interesting. But if you're just going to go watch like Tulane play UTEP, it's like, okay, like it's not, and not to knock both of them, not to knock.
You got to be from, that's got to be your school. That's got to be the school you went to.
Oh, no, I was a Marist guy. We were fake D1. Like,
no, I'm saying like, if you're going to watch that game, you got to have gone to one of those schools because it's not just the game. Like, I'll tune into a random NFL game sometimes just because you go, okay, they're going to be getting after like a Monday Night Football. That used to be the religion that you go, hey, it's Monday night. Let's just
when
watch
Hank was over there singing the intro, you knew what was going on.
It was going to get down. The 90s and 2000 hitting. Where they
I don't know about you. Still to this day, though, like it's weird. As I've grown older and watched football, I love watching the trenches more than anything else. Like I love watching the big dogs get at it, even though the line play's not as good as it used to be. It used to be better. But there's still just something about the fact that those dudes, you want to talk about hitting, they are mauling each other. Every single play. And just to watch the skill of some of these guys, to be able to do things as quickly as they do it.
Like the DNs and the D linemen. Yeah, that is pretty amazing.
Watching the tackles get out there so well, like a good tackle getting in their back step. These are 370, 360-pound dudes flying backwards to try
and moving and controlling another man. Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty good. It's so much fun.
Okay, so you said itinerary. Let's get.
We can get on. So Adrian Peterson and Dominican Sue, Warren Sapp.
Oh yeah, Sue was killing people out there.
Sue was stepping on people. Sue should have been out of the NFL for a minute, though. I'm not.
Like 5 years before he ended.
He's like Meta World Peace or Ron Artest. Ron Artest should have been suspended from the NBA forever for a long after he elbowed James Harden in the head intentionally. I was like, that
Yeah.
dude gotta go.
He's like, "What did I do? What did I do?" He's like, "Concussion, bro. What are you
Oh,
talking
it's
about?"
funny just watching him on like all the smoke and stuff because he's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I was an idiot. I admit it. I have anger management now. Like, all right. So let's get into some politics stuff.
Yeah.
Let's have some fun here. So we're talking about here. You weren't a conservative for a minute, right?
No.
What made you
No.
become a conservative? So what were you before that, and what made you become a conservative?
Well, so I grew up right outside of Chicago in Evanston, Illinois, and I grew up, I'd say typically liberal,
Mhm.
right? So everything that we kind of was, I think, where a lot of the culture was, where you believed you were liberal, because that was also the cool thing. Everything was telling you that's the right way to be, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Went to college, and that's when everything got turned up. Like most, I think, Americans, you go to college and you get this soft indoctrination that then kind of it's a seed that I believe plants inside you. But I'm living in LA, I'm living that life, and going through ups and downs, like being on welfare 2 different times, just trying to survive as an actor, like living in terrible situations, drinking like crazy because I'm an alcoholic. So I had like that vice going. And I got sober in 2016. Well, first let me go back. I even I campaigned for Obama. I made me and my girl at the time made phone calls for Obama in '08.
I
And
feel like that's a lot of people. It's like I always like
yeah,
hearing these stories because I've been a conservative forever. Like I have
yeah,
been, I was a
good for
Rush
you.
baby. So for me, it's like I like hearing these coming to conservative stories, right? Because I don't know anything about that. Like
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, good. I mean, good for you, man. Because the things that like
it
the
was
way we
hard.
were taught, it was. But the way we were taught, bro, it was like I remember thinking it's so funny, right? Because I remember thinking they kind of had you believing that like old white men like hated you and they would call you N word or something. And when I
Just for
look
existing, right?
just
Like
for
just
existing,
because.
yep, yep. And I remember when I remember like probably a year or two ago when I stopped and I looked back at my life and I looked at who actually extended their hand for help throughout my life. It's been old white men. So it was really kind of wild. I was like, oh man, my coaches, my bosses that I've had, people in the industry that give me my sponsors, like it's all been that. And I'm like, wait a minute, wow, everything they said was a lie. But with
Yeah.
Obama, it was I made phone calls for him, and I remember he said when he got in and the first thing he did was sign that equal pay executive order, which was just like it was all show. I'm
Yep.
like, wait a minute, if you could do that executive order, he's been talking about healthcare, why doesn't he do it? And something hit me and I was like, oh, I see what he's going to do. He's not going to do anything about healthcare this first year. He's going to lose the House the second year and then blame it on the Republicans why he can't get
It's the
health care
show.
through.
It's the show.
And that's exactly what happened. And once that happened, I was like this. Then I was just kind of done with politics. I was like, I wasn't necessarily on the right yet, but I was like, I'm done with these guys on the left because, living in the city of Chicago, then living in LA, I'm like, why does it seem so hard? Yet they're the ones that are running these places. Like it doesn't make sense. Why are people dying and killing each other at these areas? Then in 2010, Rahm Emanuel became mayor of Chicago, who was Obama's chief of staff, and they held him up as all this, that, and the other. And the first his one of his first acts was he shut down 50 schools in the South Side. And I'm like, why would you shut down 50 schools in an
Oh,
area that already
he
like
sucked.
has violence? Right? He did.
Yeah, yeah.
And we were raised on the DARE program that would talk about how kids that want to kids that join gangs have nothing to do. That was one of the reasons why I did 3 sports in high school, because I didn't want to fall into that category, right? And I'm like, but if you take away schools, what has going to happen to those kids? The following year in 2011, that summer, the Chicago became the murder capital of our country. It was like more murders there than the LA and New York combined. And then that just completely turned me off from the left completely. I was like, these guys are just terrible
And it's
human
another
beings.
thing to not understand the areas, right? Because you grew up right near like the South Side of Chicago, right? And it's like if you weren't an athlete and you weren't a decent athlete, like if you're a decent athlete, a lot of the times the gangs will leave you alone for the
Right,
most
right,
part, right?
right,
Because
right,
you're good. We don't want to mess up. He has a future. I'm not going to mess with him. But if you're not that person, you join us or you're against us. And I
right,
think
right.
And that's a tough decision for a middle school kid to make because it's usually they start getting you there, right?
Right.
And especially, if you have strong parental figures, strong father figures, even a strong uncle that's there, right?
Right.
A man showing you the way, you maybe will be able to resist it. But if you don't
Well,
have guidance, you're
oh
going to
yeah.
go to get guidance from, if you're a boy, you're going to want masculine influences. And if the
Yes.
masculine influence in your life is a gang member, but he's still showing that he cares
He's
for you in
showing
some
up.
sort of way, he's
Right.
showing up. He's teaching you how to be man, whether it's the right way or not. He's potentially teaching you how to be a man. We gravitate to that. And I
Yeah.
think, and this is where white dudes don't get it in a lot of ways, right? In a lot of ways, they don't if you're not growing up. And, again, I didn't grow up a black dude, but it's not hard to see from when you listen to people. I did work with a lot of kids at
Hmm.
some point I was in a group home. And in my group home, it was like, this was your last stop to not go to juvenile, right? And a lot of these kids would tell me, it's like, hey, I don't have a choice. And then you guys sent me back home. And then what do you want me to do? Like,
Right.
the choices are very limited for people when the gangs run everything. So it's
Right.
like we're not allowing kids to have an option either. Like, and then we're blaming them for a circumstance that they didn't ask to be put in, right? They were born. And
Well,
then
it's
it
it's
was
it's
tough.
it's twofold. It's twofold, right? We blame them, but at the same time, and I've seen this, and I saw even more when I started to ask questions about like why do we behave a certain way or why do we move this way, and then when I started speaking out on it more, when I became a conservative Republican, then you get attacked for calling out bad behavior. So not only is it like it's hard to blame them for it, but then when you try to correct, it's like you can't correct because now you're doing right wing talking points and
But it's not
people
all of them, though. It's
dismiss it.
usually the big talking heads that wanna make it look like it's like obviously, you have more experience than I do, right? But I see a lot of times if you go into, like, the heavy church communities, they're not gonna disagree with you in a lot of ways,
Well,
right?
like the barbershop won't, but like I've sat there at family gatherings and been like, how come single motherhoods and we're killing each other? You're worried about a cop, but we're killing each other at a higher rate. Oh, that's not it. It's like, no, that's it. Like, why are we killing our babies high more than anyone else in the womb? Like, nope, nope, nope. Like I've experienced this, not even just online, but in person when you question this stuff and it's like it always has to resort back to no, it's racism that's the problem. And I'm like, but you can choose to behave a certain way. Like
But
it's
it's like, look at the racism. It's what the Democrats set up back in the 20s with Martin Van Buren and Tammany Hall. Like, you can go back to the roots of it when they were sitting there going, okay, these free slaves are coming up north, but I'll be damned that they're free because they were
yeah,
Stephen Douglas Northern Democrats, right?
yep,
And they were sitting there going, okay, we can give them their freedom by keeping them in a project system. And that's where the project system got created. It's like,
yeah,
that's why they want to keep minorities and poor people on
uh,
welfare. And I
and not give
always
them school choice.
not give them school option or anything, right? They
Yep.
pour in these schools for nothing. And it's like, I always like beg the question. It's like, okay, you have most poor white people in the South, they can own their trailer homes, right? So why are we telling a lot of poor minorities, black folk and Spanish folk, they either got to live in projects or rent housing in a certain block?
So you can control them.
Exactly. They're not given the option,
Yeah.
right? And that's the issue. For me, I would eliminate the project system as we know it. And I would make it, I'm a small government guy, but I would gladly create a program where this is a pick me up jobs program. Okay, you live
Mhm.
in here. This is a bunch of trades that agree. We will help you get an apprenticeship. You go to work and we will start to work with the government to get you your first home.
Well, that's
Like,
that's that's
it
only
needs
if
to
you
be
want.
done.
That's only if you want to actually help people. That's not what they want,
No,
right?
hell
So,
no.
so that again, that this is why I started seeing why I'd completely turned away from them because and I think it would behoove the right if instead of saying when people are like, well, what about systemic racism? And we go, there is no. I'm like, no, there is. It's on the left, like it's on one side of the fence and it's been
And it always
created.
has been.
And so I think we could actually affect our talking points or our argument more if we actually start because it's always good. And I've done different debates and from on the street with people, and it's like I think it's good when you can start with an agreement. So when they're like, "Well, you're saying America's not systemic or racist," I go, "Oh yeah, it is on the left." Like look at who's not shutting down your schools. Look who's taxing you like crazy. Look who just brought in a bunch of illegals and kicked you out of your neighborhood. Look who's
And you
been.
could talk about Chicago.
Oh yeah.
Famously, those Chicago meetings were
Oh man.
getting massive press because there were a lot of black people going, "You're pushing us out for
Right.
illegal people.
Right.
My kids can't go down to the local die because you took it. They closed down my kid's school.
Right.
They can't have gym class because you're putting criminal aliens in there. And it's
Right.
like, so it's crazy too that like more people aren't waking up from COVID and now from this stuff. Like,
Well, I'll tell you this.
it's
I'll tell you this.
wild.
Well, they people are in a hole. That's all we saw on the electoral map. Like this was the
Everyone
biggest
went to the right.
shift to the
Yeah.
right more, than ever before.
Mhm.
But I think the black community will be last only because they are the beta test group with the Great Society Act,
Oh
right?
my
They're the
God.
beta test group
Terrible.
with the welfare system. And
Yep.
so the fact that because they're working, like before the 65 Civil Rights Act, they were 82 to 90% of, a mother and father in the home. Now we're at 70%. So you're at such a disadvantage in a community that's used to welfare and used to not having men around and really having adult children running all over the place with high emotions. That term, but at the same time, the fastest growing group of homeschoolers are black families. So I think it'll be harder just because of the way what's designed in that
Yeah.
way now. You don't have a natural for mom and dad. You look at what do most the black community listen to? The hip hop culture. Hip hop culture has been turned into such a debaucherous culture. They're swimming uphill even more
It's
than a
not the
lot of other
blues anymore.
groups.
It used
Yeah.
to be the blues. Rap was another form of the blues. Hip hop was
Right.
another form of the blues, and at its purest form, like. But I still think that there's a reason why people still latch on to your J. Cole's and your Kendricks and your individuals
Oh
like that who
yeah.
are still rapping the blues. Like they are still telling a story. They're still in that. And again, rap has always had a bravado culture. It's always been chauvinistic. It's always been that way. Like they show out and they floss, right? It's always been their style.
But
But I mean, we're seeing
but it
more
makes it
nonsense rappers popping up.
well, yeah, and you're actually seeing more Christian rappers that are actually good pop up too. But
Yeah.
again, they're working on an uphill battle, and until I think the black community can hold itself accountable. I mean, we have that terrible story that just happened down, with the kid who stabbed the other kid in the chest, and you see the kid who committed the murder, black kid. They rushed to him and he made like somewhere around 250 or 300,000 for his defense. And people online talking about, well, the other kid shouldn't have this, shouldn't have that. And it's like, we can't even see that there's a level of violence that is so acceptable in the community that maybe that's the problem. Nope, that's not it. It's just,
And
you should never,
it's
it's wild,
crazy.
bro.
It's
It's wild.
crazy that this became like for me, it's crazy it became a race issue, right? Because like the fact that there was this such just rush to make it a race issue too, and like, oh, we're the black community, we got to rally around the black kid. It's like,
Yeah.
uh, you know,
It was
things
just
happen.
wrong.
It was
It was
wrong.
just
Like
wrong.
the dude
Yeah.
shouldn't have had a knife. Number one, you shouldn't have brought a knife to a track meet.
Right.
But it was like, okay, for me, just being a dude, when the testosterone's flowing, if they just got into a fight, no one
Yeah.
would have given a shit, right? And
No.
that's where, and
That's
I
what
could see,
it should
I
have
could
just
definitely
done.
see how it went down.
Yeah.
I could see him sitting in the tent, and he's a black kid, two white boys walking up, going, "Yo, get out of our tent! This is our tent," and him go and do something.
Well, and not even just that, the school. Because I know if I was at one school, by Evanston, and I have my rivals at New Trier, some kid was sitting over there like, yo, bro, get out of here.
Yeah.
Or
Oh yeah.
Waukegan, which was like predominantly black school, if they were sitting in a space, you're like, yo, bro, what are you doing here? And
Mhm.
because like you said, it's a bravado thing at that age. Your testosterone levels running. It's a track meet. You've been like, whether it's that or football, or whatever.
And they're
You've
both
been
two
wrestling,
star high level athletes, so they're
right?
both probably alphas. Like, because
Right.
from everything that we've learned about Carmelo Anthony, he's not this gangbanger. He's seems like a pretty good kid, decent grades, good athlete as well. And to me, it kind of sucks. The kid just made the biggest mistake of his life. I'm not saying
Right.
he should get off. I'm not saying that
No, he
anything,
shouldn't.
and he shouldn't get off. But I'm happy they're not going to give him the death penalty. I'm happy they're not going to put him in jail for life. I think he should. If they find out, and again, apparently there's video of it, so maybe we'll see more.
Oh, wow.
Maybe we will see if Austin did grab him in some type of way. Never an excuse to stab a dude, but there's also coming out that Carmelo came to the cop and was like, "Yeah, it was me. Is he okay?" Like
Mhm.
it shows a little bit of remorse. I don't think he meant to kill him. I really don't. Should he have
Well,
stabbed him ever?
so,
No.
but I'll tell you like this: it goes back to
There's
the
consequences.
culture, right? And there are photos out there of Carmelo holding a gun and putting the
Yeah.
finger in the air. So the unfortunately, the black community holding on to hip hop culture is making it so that instead of just being like I think like in the 80s and 90s, I think it was closer to masculine culture. Like if people wanted to be like Michael Jordan or Bo Jackson
Yeah.
or Wayne Gretzky. Now you see these kids who are like literally holding guns in videos because in their minds, the music tells you think you're a killer, right?
Yeah.
And so when you have this culture and look at the last, I mean, basically since 2014, 15, when they turned up this idea, this race idea. So you have so many of these young
Oh,
black
it was
kids.
before that. It was under Obama. Obama
Yeah,
started this shit. Obama
Obama
started
pushed
it
it.
when he flat out was like,
The
"That
Trayvon
could have
Martin
been my
stuff.
son," and it's
Yeah.
like, "No." And you don't have a son, number 1. Number 2, like, when it's saying the cops acted stupidly, like, Obama knew what he was doing. He was a
Oh yeah.
community organizer. He was
Oh
a
yeah.
Marxist believer. Like,
Yep.
everyone like, there's people that,
While
like
at the same time being quiet about all the kids killing themselves on the South Side, killing each
100%.
other,
Yeah,
completely
didn't
quiet.
give a shit.
So
Didn't
you
care
have
about
these
any of that.
kids. You have these kids. I mean, we've seen video after video of like black folks being like, I don't feel safe here because of all these white people. And it's like I grew up. That was never a thing in our community. We were like 46, 46. And now in the same community that I grew up in, they're offering segregated classrooms.
It's
So
wild.
it's wild. But if you keep turning this up, and unfortunately, I do think that I
Can't blame
think whatever the harshest right, I do think whatever the harshest penalty needs to happen because that's the
Yeah.
problem. It's a sad thing, and I don't say that like, haha, get him. I say that like we need to stop this. Like, well. And California is really huge on this. Well, if you tell me a sob story, you lower
Yeah.
your crime. It's like,
Yeah.
no, guys, we
No.
need to start holding criminals or people that commit these crimes to that highest extent so that another kid doesn't become another Carmelo, right? When you're 17 and you bring a knife there, that's intent, like
Yeah.
already. Like you
Yeah.
showing it.
And he
So
was
I do
wrong.
watch the
Yeah.
video, we'll see what happens, but like people are always going like, well, video like, he shouldn't have touched him, he shouldn't have done this. It's like, so what you're saying, and we've seen the numbers, unfortunately, blacks kill other races more than any other races kill blacks or any other race. So it's like 13% of the population, we can cut that in half to about 6.5. You're telling me they do about 50% of the murders, and that's
Yeah.
across different lines. Like there is something wrong to the core, and it's a fear of going, or not even a fear, but it's like, yeah, part of it is a fear of saying of holding anyone accountable. But what they did was after the 65 Act, they started paying women not to be with men. They took that stopgap
Yeah, that
out
was
of
the
the home.
worst. The
Right
worst.
now, when you feminize these kids, because I was one of them, right? I was raised in a single mother home. I had my emotions weren't in check, but I was also given passes for not stepping up the way I should step up in life. And when that keeps building up and building up and building up, it's harder to take correction. Thank God for sports, because that at least gave me an understanding of a correction.
Yeah.
But there was many times I tried to like, I use that to get away, get away from and use trying to find a way out where you don't have those men around. And it's like feminizing our culture, feminizing that community. That's why I think until they get rid of, women and gay men leading the black community, it's going to be an uphill battle, bro. That's just what I see.
Yeah. It's tough. I will say this about the situation with the young man. He will get in trouble for having the weapon there. It's a no weapon zone. So that's number 1. That he should get in trouble for that. If he can prove that he felt like his life was at danger, though, he can defend himself with lethal force. So he'll get in trouble for having that. But if the video shows there was a bunch of people surrounding him and he grabbed him and he felt that was the only way to get away, because apparently he's not like he stood around and kept doing it. He stabbed him left.
Mhm.
So that would be, if I'm the defense, that's what I'm saying. Okay, he felt like he was in fear for his life. And
Well, yeah, that's what you got to.
when it comes to guns, see, thing is, I think we look at it in such a weird way, and I understand why we do, right? Because hip hop culture is prevalent and things like that. But I can't be mad at a kid holding a gun, because I can't be mad at a 14-year-old white boy holding a shotgun because he's hunting, right? I am okay with guns. I don't think we should. I think we should all have constitutional carry. I am okay. Now, I would wish that we would stop having fear of guns. I wish that we would teach youth about guns as a tool and what they do and how they function, because then there will be a lot less fear. Like, for me, I want most of the people in Chicago to have guns. I want them to be able to protect themselves. Like, I am cool with them protecting themselves. So it's like, when we sit there and we point to, well, they had a picture of them with a gun. Okay, we have congressmen with whole families holding shotguns.
Well,
You know what I mean?
but the difference is the hip hop culture of gangster. That's the big difference.
Yeah,
So he's not holding a gun like you're talking about. It's like, hey, we're shot and I can protect myself. It's like, I'm a gangster, dog.
Yeah,
Like that's the
it is
biggest
a
part.
difference.
It's
Obviously.
that's
Yes.
and that's the part, the poison that is in there, you know, like for example, we go back to the 80s and you have like the Sugar Hill Gang, right? Then you fast
Like
forward and
Rakim and stuff
NW,
like that, yeah.
right? And yeah, Eric B, even Nas for an example.
Yeah.
But look at who then the Democrat leftist leaning music industries decided to prop up instead. They propped up gangster rap. So they put it on the platform purposely so it'd be the way that all of a sudden that like cool, chill rapping went out of the door and everything was like, I'm killing of this, I'm killing of that, I'm banging this, and this bitch is that. Like, so they've literally been poisoned. There's a line, there's a song, my little son, we listen to on YouTube, it's Listener Kids. It's like Christian music, right? But kind of
Yeah.
like modern.
Yep. Yep.
And one of the songs, it's like be careful, little ones, what you see. Be careful, little ones, what you see. Be careful, little ones, what you hear. And I used to listen to a lot of that music. You know, I used to listen to hardcore rap.
Oh, I
And
still
now
love
when
gangster rap. I still
but
listen to it, and I still
I
enjoy
can't,
it.
I can't even. When I try to listen to it now, it like actually hurts my ears. And I'm like, imagine like a whole area where they're moving around and that's their go-to to get hyped up to get ready for sports. That's
Yeah.
their go-to to like get ready to go out at night. So you're moving with that energy more consistently than, you know, going to Iowa. Like there was all different types of music. So it was like we weren't going out there being like motherfucker this, motherfucker.
You had rock, you had country, you had hip hop, you had a little bit
Exactly.
of everything.
Exactly. But in those areas, all they got is that like that, and now it's even worse, right? Because it's mumble rap, just talking
It's
about shooting.
awful.
It's being very, from a Christian perspective too, is being very materialistic. And if it's all about the material, then you don't really look at what's below. And then when you're that young and your testosterone's high and you're just moving with like more of an instinctual type of move, where's your instinct going to lean on first? It's not going to lean on reason because you kind of the music and the industry you're about doesn't lean on reason. It leans on just, you know, reaction. So that boom, then they move into that space. It's really, again, it's really sad. I pray, I do pray for this, that the community can shift. I think that one of the great things that Trump can do is the more success that you bring into the country, it trickles to everybody. And now when people can start to own and build for themselves, it's less of a chance to throw their life away for dumb stuff.
He was trying it with the opportunity zones in the first one, and whether or
Right.
not it worked out perfectly or not, but he was at least trying. And you know, and it's always funny when you listen to the gangster rap and stuff too. The songs that were pushed were always the violent ones, not the ones where Tupac was talking about how shitty his life was, how he was
Right,
so happy
right,
to be
right.
out,
Unless you
how
got the
much,
LP,
how
right?
bad it was, things like
Mhm.
that. Or, you know, you get a few, right? You get Today Was a Good Day by, you know, Ice Cube
Ice
and things
Cube,
like
yeah.
that. But it's like and it's not like these true hip hop artists, while they did have the gang stuff, they were also singing the blues a lot. Even
Right, right,
Biggie
right,
talking
right.
about getting out. So, but they ignored those songs. And those
Yeah,
are some of their best songs. And
yeah,
one of my favorite ones was Hate It or Love It with 50 Cent and The Game. All of it was about
that
how
was
they were
great.
raised and how much better
Yeah,
it is now and how
yeah,
they never want to get back there. And it was
yeah,
like, if we focused more on those messages, right? Because, like, don't get me wrong, like all genres have those certain elements. Like
yeah.
rock has their,
Rock has
you
it,
listen to
yeah.
death metal has incredibly violent elements, and I like it
Yeah.
all. Like, I'm a person that enjoys it all. Even country's rowdy. All country is about
Oh, yeah,
is drinking, partying, fighting, and fucking. That's it. Like, that's all it's about. Now they couch it better and they're a little
yeah.
more clever in their wording,
Right, right,
so it
right.
makes it more acceptable. Where hip hop's more very out there, and they used to be much
It's
more
right in your
clever, right?
face. Yeah,
But that's where Lil Wayne was always incredible. He was much more clever. He was
yeah.
blunt, but he was also clever. Eminem, he's incredibly clever. And again, you look at the real hip hop artists that are better at this. Yes, they have violence, but they also have a good share of songs talking about why what they say isn't real life and why what you should do is the opposite,
Like
right?
like like DMX, that he was one of my favorite, and always in the last 2 to 3 songs, I don't know if you remember the song Damien.
I love Damien,
Yes,
dude. That was from his
that's
first
his
album.
first album, and then he did Damien.
It's Dark and Hell is Hot. So
Right,
good.
and Damien 2 on the second one,
Yep.
but I
Yep.
remember when I got through kind of all the surface ones and started getting on to, like, the stuff he was really doing, I was like,
He was a
"Oh,
deep dude.
man." Yeah, and so but to your point, I 100% agree with you. It's like, it's so surface level with a
Yeah.
lot of the stuff that is pushed over and over. I still believe when you don't have like, we go country and we go rock, the biggest difference there is the fact that the fathers tend to be around, so they still have a
Yeah.
stopgap.
Yeah.
But when you don't, once again, only 20% of this community has a stopgap, that infection can spread so much easier And
Well, again,
so,
how many hip hop artists do you hear in their song saying, "My father wasn't there. I'll be damned if I'm not there for my kids," right?
right,
Like
right.
you hear it over and over and
Yeah.
over, like, and it does end up that a lot of these individuals,
Are
whatever they
great
say,
dads.
they're taking care of their families,
Yeah.
right?
They're great
They
dads.
are,
Yeah.
they're doing what they're supposed to do. Even Eminem, yeah, the government was going after Eminem, and from everything that we've seen, Haley and Lainey are growing up to be nice young ladies. I think Haley's having her first kid, and
Yeah. I
she
just
got
saw the
married.
picture
Like
of
it's
it.
all
Yeah.
like
She has a
so.
daughter.
It's like
Eminem's a
they
grandfather now. Isn't that crazy?
it's wild. I feel
Isn't that
old as
crazy?
shit.
Yeah.
But it's
No,
like,
that
I
dude went
wish
off.
that they would highlight what they're preaching in like some of their more deeper songs, right? More than, but again, it's not what sells.
Well, the music industry is demonic, so you can't do it,
100. Well, look
right?
at
I
Travis
mean,
Scott. Travis
yep.
Scott's Satanist, 100%.
I mean, but that's
Like,
again, so we go back to it when it's like who's running the system, right? The system of
I
the
see it.
entertainment system, movies. We see what they're doing with the LGBT stuff everywhere, the trans stuff, musically. All this stuff was done to break us. And unfortunately, like I said, why it would be harder for the Black community again, the stopgap is not consistently there. But again, I do believe that that is shifting. It's just maybe
100%.
harder for that community than other communities, and maybe more people can pull them up and go, "Hey, come with me," because people are getting after a while. These younger boys, I'll tell you this, they tend to the Gen Zers across the board voted for Trump, so
Yeah.
they saw like, okay, there's something different. So we'll see. And even with this case, maybe it'll be something where with the internet, now we just will pop it up to a point where we need to have this conversation, man.
Yeah.
People need to be okay with being corrected. People need to stop being so emotional when someone looks at them funny. Like we got to
It's
cut this
hard
shit
though. It
out.
is hard, but we do need to do it. And the thing is, one thing I've seen growing up too, and especially because I've been a conservative my whole life, like I said, right?
Mhm.
Like my dad was a conservative. He never forced it upon me. He was
Right.
always just like, he'll give me the option. He listened to Rush and I wanted to listen to it. I grew up a Rush baby. And that's kind of where my whole entire worldview has come. What I have seen, the biggest shift is there are more Black conservatives than ever, and
Yes.
more Black individuals
Openly
willing
anyway.
to be openly conservative, right?
Yeah.
And it started off for a little bit. It was Thurgood Marshall. It was
Mhm.
Thomas Sowell, then it was Clarence Thomas, and then very few, like, there was some individuals, but it was hard, right? Because they were destroyed by
Mhm.
everyone,
Culture.
white
Yeah.
people, Black people included, basically saying you're throwing away your
Your
culture for
Uncle
rich white men.
Tom.
You're an
Yeah.
Uncle
Yeah.
Tom.
Yeah.
And now we've seen individuals like yourself. The Hodge twins have been fantastic.
Mhm.
Just we can even though Sugar and
Brandon
Spice,
Tatum. Yeah.
rest in peace to one Brandon Tatum. And it's like we are seeing so many more, and that's a good thing, right? It's a good thing to
Right.
lead the culture and to sit there and they could try and knock you guys all the time, be like, "Oh, you're tap dancing." It's like, okay, but these people are nice to me, and we
Right.
actually get along, and we're friends,
That's
and we
it.
help each other, and it's
That's
like,
it.
so they tap dance for me as much as I tap dance for them. That's called being a friend and
It's
having a
called being
relationship. Like you
exactly.
watch each other's backs, you help each other, like,
And
and
something
that's
that it's funny too, because like I've been seeing some videos where some Black folks was like, "Wait, you're saying you're taking my black card?" You go, "You can have it. If having a black card means being debaucherous, it being like deviant, being unruly." And I thought about it too, and it started to hit me. I'm like, now that I'm married with a young son and a daughter on the way, and have a house, and I'm like, I don't need to I don't like I got it's too important to
life
worry
changes.
about whether some random black person likes me enough to that I need to then behave in a way that puts my family at risk. Like that's
Yep.
insane. And I think that's why family is so important.
Well, it's
Because
also
once
your
you start
religion,
getting
right?
family,
You're
yeah,
not a
oh, okay,
narcissist. You're
no,
not a narcissist now. You understand that now that you have a child, your life is not yours alone. You are living for something more.
yeah,
And that's the bottom line. And thing is, and like we're seeing the narcissist culture, the secular culture that
yeah,
has created this thing where we're getting men and women alike, especially women, fearful that their physical bodies are going to change and that they're going to have to change their lifestyle because a child comes in.
right,
And
right,
it's
right.
like that mindset is so poisonous because, yes, your life is going to change. But what we need to start telling kids is it's going to change for the better in
The
so
better,
many
yeah,
ways. Where, yeah, all of your goals and your big things and you wanted to do don't matter. You could still do things. You could still have fun. You could take your kids with you and do things, but your job becomes to make them better. When you watch them succeed, you watch them achieve things, it is significant. It's a significantly better feeling than your best feeling of your life.
Well,
It's crazy.
what I was thinking about too, because I'm in entertainment and everything, and my wife is a classically trained dancer, and we're watching our son, and he's into music, and he's all this stuff, and I go, we can bring back. You got to think before the Industrial Revolution. My wife was listening to this, and it kind of made a lot of sense to me, not kind of. And back then, it would be like you're in a small town. If your dad was the blacksmith, then you would go to work with him. And when you're able to like pick up a hammer, you start
8
working,
years old, you start going.
right?
Give you a
So
little hammer, you get going.
you get going. So I think like in this generation now, with the advent of AI, with the advent of working from home, and how it's easier to do that, it's like bring your kid with you. Like I think it's like
Yeah.
you shift what your big goals are, and you go, man, if I want to be, an actor, if I want to be in entertainment, I'm going to bring my kid with me. So he doesn't have to, if he wants to go into it, he doesn't have to go through the same stumbles that I did, because I was going just, sight unseen, figuring it out. Like I will mentor him into that now, so that it becomes like, yes, I'm chasing my dream, but I'm also building this kid up so that he has a skill set that if he wants to use it, which opens many doors, he can. If not, great. You're going to have skill sets that, your mom's going to give you. So
It
I
used to be
think,
a thing. Take your child to work. That used to be a
right,
thing.
right.
Big time.
So I think if we can start to like, as fathers, especially start to, bring what we are and what we know with us, or to our kids with us, I think it's a great opportunity to change so much
Hell
of,
yeah.
like you said, this narcissistic culture
Yep.
that has been, and the craziest, wildest thing is, you guys should watch this documentary by White Rose Resistance called the 1916 Project.
Ooh.
And within that, my buddy Seth Gruber, he put it together. And I remember when he was like starting it
Writing that down.
with this book. Yeah, you definitely check it out.
1916 Project, right?
Let me just give you an example of how evil is patient and how evil is very organized. So in 1916, Planned Parenthood Worldwide, who was Margaret Sanger's organization, they met in England in a big conference with a bunch of world leaders. Their two main goals. 1916. So at this point now, we're a little bit over 110 years, of this execution. And you tell me if it's been executed or not. So their two goals was, one, to lower marriage rates, and two, to lower birth rates. And they said each country is going to have to do it in their own way because they have different cultures. So you guys are going to have to figure that out. In the West, they intellectualized it, right? They go, oh, well, you should have an abortion because your career, your freedom.
And she was the leading eugenicist in the world at one point, Margaret.
Exactly. She was actually even like, what was it? Hitler praised her, right?
Well, she
So,
was Mengele praised her and said that
yeah.
he was like someone that she looked at like
Oh, yeah.
they had missives. Her and Mengele had missives between each other about things.
No, yeah. So it's like, if you look at it, that was their plan, and you look at how the culture has turned into this, with the push of the free love movement, with the with the baby boomers. It's like you can do whatever you want and be whatever you want. All that stuff is that it's a mixture of that Karl Marx, Margaret Sanger, and Sigmund Freud idea.
Where you look at the Fetzer group too, from
Yep.
with the social emotional learning with John
Right.
Fetzer, and even the UN, because you have
Yep.
with Fetzer is Alice Bailey and the Lucifer Press stuff. That's the it's still the press corps, the publishing arm underneath the UN today. It's like
Right.
all this leftist theory, which again, thank you Jean-Jacques Rousseau for starting most of this. You do,
I know.
but
Right.
but it's like all this.
Don't worry,
leftist theory,
he's burning somewhere. He's all good.
he's spinning somewhere. Like,
Yeah.
no, but it's like you can point to, and it's like we sound crazy, right? When we talk about all this stuff because we've read about it all, and it's like you start pointing to all these places, and then you like, I point to like Paulo Freire and our education system and Antonio Gramsci and the plan to
Sex
march
ed.
through the institutions. And it's like you look at all of it and people look at you and they're like, what are you talking about? You sound crazy. And it's like, no, read something. Like,
Well,
it's all
I
there. They
I
write
don't
down everything they want to do and they do
Yes,
it.
they have to write it down. That's part of evil. But I don't even
Yeah.
know if it sounds as crazy anymore. I think
Not
that,
anymore, really. Yeah.
with what happened in COVID, people just at the very least was like, okay, something is off.
But
And
still,
then
to
once
the
you can
average
start
person, they turn off when you go too far, though.
when you go
have to be
too, yeah,
careful.
when you
You have to be
when you
careful.
go deep into it, yeah. But I'm saying the idea of what COVID really brought us was that second of like, okay, this is not what I thought it was. And when somebody can start there, just that's what happened to me when I got sober. It stopped being fun, and I was like, okay, something off. And so once you get to that place, it's the chance to shift over and really clear your head and mind and learn the truth opens up more. But if you are in a nice little space, a nice little suburb, and you've been living this life forever, and you get your social security check and you watch your MSNBC, yeah, you're never gonna like pop out of that. But I see like Gen Z is the great hope for this country, as they
They
voted
are.
more for Trump than anyone, than any youth group
Mhm.
before. So the fact that they have woken up, and I think every generation, I know this 21-year-old, I think every generation's wake up is technically closer together than the generation before, right? Like the
Really?
kids, because the kids who, let's say like in 2020, you're a senior in high school, right? Boom, that happened. Everything shut down. Now you fast forward in 2020, you have like 2023, 24, where everything gets flipped on the head. And you've been told, if you're a white kid, you've been told you're this, you're that, you're this, you're that. And you're going, wait a minute, no, I was raised to be a good guy. I've noticed 21-year-old who almost killed himself because it hit him so hard, so it woke him up quicker. But if you're somebody who is like 55, you've been slowly trained in like this revolution is coming, be prepared. Those kids haven't. Those kids have a smaller window.
That's true.
Me, I have a smaller window than somebody who's 60, who's been slowly getting ingrained into that, and all they can do is repeat and go, "That's racist, black square." Me, I'm like, well, we grew up in the 90s where everything worked. Like I have our best friend group was half black, half white. Like we lived actually the dream and we weren't as close to, that perception of the civil rights era that started kicked us into higher gear. So when the stuff started shifting, I really think it just shrunk up the amount of time that the indoctrination could really seep in and sick into your bones. And I think we've seen those young boys, like I said, like the most conservative group out of all generations are Gen Z boys right now. It's like, whoa, I never thought I'd ever hear that. And so here we are.
And I also think the information too helps because, right? Because back then they were getting their information from generally a homogenous source of
Yeah.
news, right? They were getting what was in the school books, and the school books were already leaning that way, right?
Oh
Because
yeah.
when you're looking in the 60s, that's when Freire and Giroux started really bringing it to colleges and teaching the teachers how to teach. So it's like it started to get in there right away. And you already had leftist theory seeping in all the colleges because they like that stuff anyway.
Mhm.
So that they were really I think it's harder for them because they didn't have the resources to go and check that
Yeah.
information,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Where
Yeah. Yeah.
now Gen Z can go online and they can hear something a teacher says and they can go, let me check that out. And
In
they
real
can go to a
time.
bunch of sources in real time and go, you know what? That maybe is semi-true, but it's not the full truth. And
Right.
then like
Right.
you still may get them thinking, okay, I believe a more socially left because most kids are socially left. They want to be good
I
people,
mean,
right? And
the culture
socially
has
left
been socially
sounds
left.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Socially left sounds good because it's emotional. And when you don't have any emotional regulations, you just want to be accepted. And that's what
Right. Right.
teenagers are. So you're looking at it, but now the armor gets chipped away quicker because they can at least look and go, I think it's mostly true, but that wasn't true. So
Hmm.
I'm going to be a little more on guard for whatever that teacher tells me. And then as that starts to pile up, they're like, at some point, they maybe get to college, and then they start to see Turning Point on campus, and they're talking, and there's like, oh, these motherfuckers have been lying to me the whole time. Like, okay, like I'm done
Yeah.
with them. Like, and I think
But
that
here
the
and
information helps.
and here's the cool part about it, right? Like you talked about my clothing design, the new Rebel.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, teenage years are your angst years. That's when
Oh
you want to
yeah.
buck the system.
Hell
So
yeah.
now what's the new rebel way to be? Is a conservative, is a
It's
Christian.
crazy.
So like now we're gonna have a whole swath of people being to rebel against the normal the what's been normalized as culture, which is leftist culture.
Secularism. Yeah.
Yeah, it's they're gonna flip and they're actually gonna see themselves. That's why I think good at the end of the day is always wins out, because when you get through the muck, it still provides a longer sustained existence than evil, even though evil can give you
100%.
a bunch of like instant gratification.
Instantaneous. Yes.
So it's a very hopeful time. I believe we're still shaking off the remnant of like a deep leftist culture. You see Hollywood falling, the music industry is
I don't
shifting.
think
Like,
they've fallen though. They still are
oh,
true
they're falling.
believers over there. They're
No,
true believers, a lot of them.
I'm following with. I'm saying with their influence.
Oh,
No,
yes, yes.
yeah,
Yeah, definitely.
trust me. I know some of them. They're still true believers, but their influence has fallen. So they're going to shift. Like we said earlier, storytelling is being spread out, and they've been the mouthpiece of all this propaganda for
100%.
decades. So
And
I
Disney's hurting.
oh
100%
yeah.
Disney's hurting with all their stuff.
I
They
mean,
just
Gina
canceled the
Carano's
live
suing
action
them.
Tangled.
Great.
So
Great. And Gina just got discovery in
I
her
love
lawsuit.
that. I
So
love that.
it's gonna
Gina's
be
awesome.
it's gonna be amazing, man. Like I think when our kids are 10 and 12, we're gonna be telling them stories about how wild it was. I really
And the
believe
thing
that.
is too, it's like, we hear a lot where people say like history rhymes, history repeats.
Mhm,
And maybe if you're going back into the Stone Age, but for me, as I'm looking at modern history,
mhm.
all I'm seeing is leftists try again. Honestly,
Oh
the
yeah.
history repeats because leftism and collectivism rises again. It needs to
Yeah.
get fought back. It claims a few million lives and then it
Yep.
gets fought back.
Right.
I'm hoping that this time we don't have to get to the point with the few million lives going because maybe that was COVID. Maybe COVID was that leftist push. Maybe that was that
Yeah.
CCP
Was.
communal fascist push that they were trying to start something, right? And who knows? We might have it ahead of us. If China grows some balls and they want to start a hot war, we're going to see a lot of people die, right? And we could get there right now because China doesn't seem to be backing down. Now, here's the thing: me, if I'm Donald Trump, China said, "Oh, we can work with other people." They better not, because if I'm Trump, I'm saying, "Okay, you can work with whoever you want. Any country that sells a typical
Oh yeah.
American good to China, you also get 140% tariffs
Oh
in
yeah,
Europe."
those countries aren't going to work with them because China's
No,
also playing their game of currency manipulation, which is like will affect those countries.
I
But
wonder how much the Belt and Road Initiative will force some countries to work with them, though, because they do own countries now. With that was
yeah,
the whole
yeah,
purpose of the Belt and Road
yeah,
Initiative.
that's
So,
true.
I really want
Well,
to quickly. Oh,
they're
go for it. Go for
they're
it.
gonna break them. But I want to say one point about like history. Like if you go all the way back to literally the Tower of Babel,
Oh yeah, yeah.
it's how we're created. We're created to want to collect.
Yes.
And God is one. Even when the Israelites were like screaming for a king, God was like, "Nah, I'm gonna give you judges." Just no. He's like, they're
And
like,
not even
"No."
that, no, when they did scream for a king, he eventually was like, "All right, assholes,
Yeah,
I'll
yeah,
give
yeah.
you the best
Eventually,
amongst you, though.
and
I'll
he
give you the
still
best amongst you."
and he
And
still
they still
fell.
fucked it up. And they
Yeah,
still
right.
messed it up, right? Like
So it's to me that's what tells me that it is a part of
human culture. Yeah,
our
human
built,
beings.
right? So it's either, but it's like that's why it's the first two commandments are so important, where there's only one God and I am him, and don't worship any other God, because our nature is to turn to look to worship man. Like it is like in our nature. And the more, and Christianity is making such a great comeback that we've seen in the secular world, the more they just kind of keep presenting our own vices, that's what's going to happen. So we're always going to have to be diligent and fighting against that, because it will always exist, just like good has always existed and bad will always exist. Every 80 years human beings forget. So
Yep.
this is where we are.
What's crazy is science is helping Christianity's case the more and more they
Yeah,
discover factual things from the Old Testament, right? And
yeah.
New Testament. Like they are helping it. The fact that, listen, all you have to do for now is anyone that talks about Jesus, what was it, 15 years ago? They said Jesus of Nazareth was a person. They
Yeah,
confirmed Jesus
yeah.
of Nazareth existed. Whether or not he was the son of God is up to you, right? As a
Yeah,
believer,
it just
but
kept getting closer.
As a Christian for me, and they're discovering more and more. Like they're sitting there and it's like, okay. Then even you ask AI, right? And maybe AI conforms to us, but you ask AI, which one of the religions seems to be the most true? It says Christianity with the backings of scientific discovery.
Right.
So it's hard not to. I want to get to a few of these comments real quick. Caveat ties jumping in saying, I work with troubled youth for 10 years. They all know how to spew sob stories. They do. They do. But,
Oh yeah.
but caveat ties, you also know that if you show them a good way, you are tough on them, hold them accountable, but also build them
Hmm.
up. They will also become great young men like anybody else. They
Yep.
can. They have the ability. Nate G saying, sounds like Siaka may have read some Thomas Sowell. We all need to read Thomas
Yeah, I
Sowell.
got it.
Like,
Order. I have it in my closet. Yes. Yeah.
everybody. Thomas Sowell should be required reading. Like, that
Like
man
he
is a
should have been
genius.
such a big name growing up, and they buried him so hard. Like that's an
Well,
example. They
he
buried.
was he was one of the rare black conservatives
Yeah,
that they pushed against
yeah,
hard,
hard.
hard, and they always do. Nate G also coming in saying he sucked at Elimination Chamber too. That was Travis Scott. Yeah, we're wrestling fans here too. We like WWE as well.
Yeah,
Um,
man, dude. He like when he did that crazy stuff. Like I actually heard that Cody said he's got a payback for him when he sees him next. So that's because in the wrestling industry, they like if you go
You get
above,
receipts.
you
You
get
get receipts.
receipts. Yeah,
Yep. And the thing is, it's like, here's the thing. Travis Scott did suck. I give kudos for jumping in because it looks fun as shit. Like, I don't blame him from jumping in. If they're asking me, hey, do you want to come do something in the
yeah,
Squirrel
but come
Circle?
on.
I'm
Yeah,
jumping in. So,
yeah.
but yeah,
But respect the business, man. Come on.
agreed. Agreed. Caveat ties coming in saying they got tangled and all this woke stuff. Did it? Yeah, you see,
It's
tangled, cancel.
that's good. That's good. That's good.
And
Caveat
Nancy
ties
also
must be a dad because that came in nice and
definitely
easy.
dad jokes. China's econ is a paper tiger. It is. It is. Honestly, if we want to win this, and which I don't think Trump wants to do this because he doesn't like hurting individual people really much. Trump, contrary to popular belief, he doesn't hate poor people.
Yeah.
But all we'd have to do is cut off China completely for a week. Yes, our old people would suffer because of all the drugs that they send us, right?
Mhm.
But
Oh,
there,
apparently he's about to tariff pharmaceuticals next. So here we
I
go.
mean, we'll see what goes on. Listen,
Yeah.
Trump's doing Trump things. With Donald Trump, I said it before, I'll say it again. This is all a gamble. All of it. If it goes well and it goes according to plan, we become the major hegemon 100% in the world superpower again. We are set up. If it fails, we are in a major depression, a global depression. We'll lose the midterms and 2028, and we'll deserve to, right? Because we, as a conservatives, we took a gamble and we lost. That's politics.
Well,
It would
this
suck, but it's what would happen.
I think it's a gamble, but we have the big stack in a poker game. So
So big.
everyone else has to have the flush or the four of a kind because we are. I think we're sitting good with
I'm
a
hoping.
good two pair or something because this is we it's too much and we have to do it now. If we wait another 10 to 15 years, then we won't.
So caveat Ty saying yes, three boys. There you go. Listen, we all got dad jokes here. I know Nate's a dad
I
too.
know.
And Nate saying Walmart is already saying they'll refuse higher
Oh
prices
yeah.
out of
No,
China,
it's over.
which
It's over.
surprising because the Walton family has sucked since Sam Walton passed
Yeah.
away. So considering his kids have not been great in terms of they're leftists, all right? His Sam Walton was a more of a traditional Republican. He was
Yeah.
definitely
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
center leading Republican, but he was a Republican man. His kids definitely aren't Republicans, but good to hear
Yeah.
that. And honestly, listen, the Waltons have a relationship with the Trumps, right? So I
Yes, they
don't
do.
think they're going to do anything to hurt Trump. And I think this is him telling them, hey, play ball here. You're gonna be good in the, and that's
Dude, he
also
already
good for poor Americans because
right?
Walmart's now helping their demographic. So
Dude, he already has $3 or $8 trillion in the last 3 months promised to America. Like what?
I think it's crazy that he
Like
had a
what?
third of the world, a
Yeah.
third of the world coming to him and asking him not to fuck them up, right? Because
Yeah.
what do you say? 75 countries, and that's just what you want to know about. There's many more. That's
And
a third of the world.
majority of them right around China. That's not by accident.
Well, I think the big thing with China and why they really pulled the trigger once Vietnam wanted to come to the table, because that's their manufacturing arm is Vietnam.
Mm,
They go through a lot. They make a lot of things, but they send a lot of stuff to Vietnam and they take a ton of money from Vietnam. Like
mhm.
all your made in Vietnam stuff, China's getting a cut. So it is pretty wild. I think that's really when China went to DEF CON and was like, we need to do something, right? Because Nam was ready to come over and negotiate. Nate saying Tom Woods had an incredible discussion on tariffs with Gene Epstein on a show 2 nights ago. Listen, I love the tariff discussions. I think it's really good and healthy to talk about all this.
Right.
I do. Nate G saying the history of U.S. getting tariffed is super interesting. And that's the thing. It was something
Yeah.
I didn't know. And I love politics my whole life. I had no idea the deficits that we were running with all these countries. I knew that we rebuilt China. That's one thing everyone needs to
Yeah.
understand. When China was built out of wood and Japan firebombed the hell out of them and destroyed them, it was America and the allies that spent billions upon billions of dollars to rebuild them into the country they are today. Number one, we rebuilt all of Europe. And I knew these deficits existed then, right? And it was the right thing to do. They were our allies. We wanted to help them. But now they have been taken advantage.
Well, but
and
I think
Dad
I
has
think
taken off of his belt. That's it. Like
well,
the kid's got to go hide.
right, but I think it's because if we saw anything, what the main thing I got from the Kennedy documents being released was that the communists they started infiltrating our culture, and once they
Yeah.
started doing that, you have to break America by breaking its middle class, and they have to do the slow march through the institutions.
Mhm.
So now you have these politicians who are like, well, it makes more sense. Let's open up the welfare state. Let's bring in more illegals, so they can squeeze down basically the coward piven tactic of breaking us down. That's been expanded out to a global
And let's
mindset.
confuse them culturally, right? Because
Yep.
all your great civilizations have fallen have really started with the men and women thing, big time.
Yeah.
And you even look at before Hitler came up, the Weimar was very much that way.
Oh yeah.
So
Oh yeah.
that there's a lot of similarities in terms of what, like, how these places fall and how they do. So I want to get into J6 because, like I said, you're my second J6er on the show. We had Derek Evans on the show a little
Ah,
while ago. And Derek's awesome out of West Virginia. But I want to hear about your experience. You mentioned that you walked in and walked out. Basically, you were there
Right.
for a little bit over a minute.
That was it.
Number one, did you go to the Trump rally first and then wander with that
Mhm.
crowd? Because the people need to understand, and this crowd understands, but anyone that's watching that maybe doesn't, maybe our tariffs or taxes friends over there, if he's still watching,
No, they run. They
there
don't
were
stop.
two separate crowds. There was the crowd that was already set up, not at the Trump rally,
Right.
starting shit well before the Trump rally people came over there. And then there was individuals like yourself who were at the rally and migrated over, as Trump said, go and demonstrate peacefully,
Yeah,
right?
peacefully and
And
patriotically, let their
patriotically.
voice heard.
So
So I
what was your
was
experience at J6?
so that, and I actually, it's funny. I went when I was in DC because my trial was supposed to start on the 21st, the day after inauguration. So I had to be in DC, and I was at my lawyer's house 2 days before, and he has all this video of different things that haven't shown us, including that group that got there 15 minutes before Trump finished his speech,
Yep.
led by Ray Epps, and how a random person came. You see it. They're showing it from like the top angle of the Capitol, and you see random guy come and just take away all of the barriers that had the sign on it. It was really like I'm looking at this going, whoa, this is
Totally not
insane.
feds, totally not Antifa in there,
At
not
all,
one bit,
right?
not
At
one bit.
all.
No, none, no.
Well, we're about to find out it was, but so I went there. Super cold that day, and I went there, and we were, we were sitting. We were pretty close to the Washington Monument, but a little further up, right before you get to the sidewalk. And right at, the speeches are going on, and when you get to the end, people started to march over there very easily and like relax. We're kind of joking with the people around us, and the person I was with, her and I was like, you know what? At this point, I had been doing Beverly Hills rallies since June of 2020. Every Saturday leading up till election, I've been going to different rallies. It was my third time in DC at this point. I was pretty much done with the rally thing, right?
Yeah.
Like I was not going to go to the Capitol because I'm like, okay, I've done it. We're not going to just sit there in the cold and like, I'm good. Grew up in Chicago, I moved to LA for a reason. So I go back to the hotel. I was at the Marriott across the street, right across the street from Freedom Plaza. And I was like, let me see what the other side is saying about this. Because that's something I always do. Since I became a Republican conservative, I decided I would always like to watch what the other side would say about things that I was at or I was about, to say like, man, they're just lying. So I turned it on, and this lady on MSNBC, which is probably the worst channel to go to for this.
MSDNC,
Yeah.
MSLSD, you pick your, I think Mark Levin calls it MSLSD.
LSD, that's funny.
That's hilarious.
So I go and I turn it on, and I see this lady. She's talking, and she's like, "There were shots fired and blood on the ground, and it's such a sad or somber moment." And I'm like, she's lying. Like I felt like she was lying. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go down there, find that camera person, and stand behind him and be that crazy black dude being like, "See like that's literally what my intention
That
was.
was your goal.
That was my goal, bro. Like to hand to God on that. So I pop on my boots. I started heading down, and now where I
Were you
was,
gonna testify that in court that was your goal?
yeah, I
To
was
be the
gonna,
crazy black dude behind the
yeah,
camera, man?
yes.
That's
Dude, I
hilarious.
have been telling this story across podcasts over the
That's
last 3 years.
amazing.
Like it's been the same story. And so then I start walking down. Now it's like a mile to get down from where we were. Is a mile to get down to the Capitol. By the time I get PMDSC, that's funny. By the time I get down to the Capitol, as I'm walking there, actually, people are kind of meandering. Some people are walking back, and I'm like, "Oh, is it over? Everyone leave?" And people are like, "No, there's still people over there." But like again, no energy of, "Oh my goodness, I can't believe anyone's there." So I get over to the Capitol. I'm walking around, and I actually literally bump into Stephen Davis, who's MAGA Hulk.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I bump into him, but we had been doing the Beverly Hills rallies together. I had no idea who was going to be there. I literally, boom, I'm like, oh, we're like, what's up? And a couple other guys that we rode with. And this lady like recognized us, and she's like, can I interview you guys? We're like, okay. And so we start getting interviewed. We're actually right next to the scaffold where the American flag was hanging over.
Yep.
And as we're talking, right till we get to the end of our interview, there was like they started singing the national anthem. So then everyone there is singing the national anthem. And mind you, at this point, everything is just like cool. Like that's like just everyone's meandering around. So then we're like, all right, hey, let's go up the stairs of the bleachers. So we go up the back stairs by this back scaffold. As I get closer to the top of the stairs, that's when I start smelling remnants of pepper spray. So I was like, uh-oh. I'm thinking something, something must have happened. But again, on the right, if something happened, it was usually like pockets of small pockets. It's not like that's not who we are. We're not
No.
going to like flip tables like that, right?
Nope.
And so then I walk over to the side and I see like I get into the crowd and there's the cop standing on there and like there's a lady, she gets up and she's kind of like doing like this funny little dance in front of them. They push her down and then
Ooh.
spray her with the bear spray. I was like, whoa. And I just turned and I keep walking to the side. Like I was like, that's
I ain't
crazy.
going to
Yeah, I was like,
that.
I'm not going that way. So then I walk around and I go up a pair of stairs where just more people just hanging out. I see this guy Russ Taylor who they ended up like indicting. They put him through hell.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh, Russ, what's up, man? He's like, what's up? We'll give each other a hug. Then I continue to walk around. And then this is the part where I believe this is either Antifa or feds, because some random guy with like, he had his full face mask on. He comes over, he goes, hey man, I'm following you. I was like, all right, I'm going this way. So I'm walking around and I'm filming outside and yeah, I see some broken glass. And there was a guy standing on like the little, but a glass with his lady, and they're cowards hiding in there. And I'm like, all right, man. He goes, they're afraid of the people. And so we keep walking, and I see the doorway, which the doorway I got in trouble for. And as I'm walking towards it, I say, hey, is this where they're letting people in? And I hear someone go, yeah. And so like it's kind of like if you're going into a football game, a crowded football game, or like a rock concert, everyone's just kind of like slowly trying to get in. I get into like right over the threshold, and we're kind of stopped. There's a cop to my left. Now I found out it was actually Selfie Cop. I guess that was a big individual. They were trying to get discovery on his name, which we actually got permission to get his name. So we were going to call him to trial. But it was Selfie Cop, and I was like, hey man, I heard they got to Nancy Pelosi's desk. Is that true? He's like, I don't know. I was like, all right, man. And then like we were kind of stopped, but it wasn't like cops were sitting there holding us. It was just like people stopped because it seemed like they were towed to.
Yeah.
I have footage of all this, and I have like there's a bunch of cops, probably like 15 to 20 cops are standing against the wall, just hanging out. So there was no energy of like, get the hell out of here because this is crazy. And so I'm standing there and I reach over with my phone and I'm just kind of like reaching around, like looking around, trying to get as much as I can get on camera. Because that was one of the reasons I went to J6. I was like, this is going to be historic. I want to capture this historic moment. I don't know what's going to happen, but I know it's going to be historic. And so as I'm doing this, another cop who's on full riot gear, he comes up right to us and was like, I need you guys to go back the other way now. I was like, oh, okay, man. Hey, I was like, we're being reasonable. I'll make sure I was like, this is a very reasonable group right here. And I turn around and I go, hey guys, we got to go back the other way. I turned to him, I was like, we're going to get taken care of. And I told him that, and then we turned and we pretty much walked out. And so when I walked out, I went around to the side of the window where somebody, I think it was that area where you see in a video where one random guy like threw something through the window in order to break it, and everyone's just kind of staring at him. So I think that was the window. We're looking back, and I'm looking, I'm recording, and somebody put like, a sticker on the wall. I'm like, man, people are pissed. I was like, people are upset, man. It's like, this is what happens when you shut people down and you feel like they lost their election. So I'm like kind of doing commentary over the video because I'm thinking I'm going to release this, right?
Yep.
Then there was a cop standing there. I was like, hey man, what's going on? I heard there's a curfew tonight. And the guy's just standing with the gas mask on. He's just like not really saying anything. I'm like, when's the curfew? He's like kind of shrugging. I go, you don't care. You're going home, huh? He's like, and I kind of laugh. And I walk out the other way, and there was a whole line of cops just standing there. And I go up to him. I go, man, guys, like we are against you guys. This is the frustration. I was like, we shouldn't hide. Like we're all Americans. I'm like, I'm not hiding. My name is Siaka Massaquoi. Like I said my name out loud and everything. I was like, we're not hiding. We're not trying to do this violently, all this stuff. And they just stood there still. They didn't move. And I was like, all right, well, I'm gone. So I turned and walked the other way. I go around the side now, to where the front of the Capitol was. Now I did see two moments that reminded me of an incident with Antifa in Beverly Hills, where they infiltrated our side by dressing up as Trump supporters.
Of course.
And what they did was at Beverly Hills, when Antifa came and we were broken up by, the bike racks, those guys on our side, when Antifa came and people would kind of go up and start talking to them, they start cursing. They would start cursing back at Antifa. So inherently, it was getting us riled up even more. And I saw that and I was like, because I used to call one of the guys cowards because I caught him in a lie weeks before, and I was like, "Hey, what's up, coward?" Every time I saw him walking, I'm like, "Yo, it's." And now he's dressed in a USA shirt, and I'm like, "Oh," I'm like, "That's weird." So then I saw him start cursing, and at that Beverly Hills rally, I'm like, "We have women and old people and kids here. We're not here to fight. We're here to go march." Like, and so I actually rallied everyone there. It was probably like over 1,200 to 2,000 people. I'm like, "Let's go! Like, we're not here to fight these."
And you could tell that they were acting at that point, right? Like that was a
Oh yeah.
part of the act. That was Antifa and Antifa acting in order to get people riled up.
Exactly, exactly. It was so clear. So the two instances I saw was right before I got up to the door. I saw like a man grab two guys by the shoulder and go, "Let's go!" And he pushed them forward. And guys were like, "What are you doing?" Right? He's like, and it didn't work. And so when I got to the front, I saw that again, and that stuck in me. I'm like, that's weird. Like men don't. Even Jesus, he didn't say, "Let's go." He said, "Follow me."
Yeah.
Like men lead and you follow. They don't push you forward
An
first.
agitator, Satan is the influence.
Exactly. So I saw those two moments there and I was like, all right, I noted that was weird. So
Mhm.
then I'm leaving and I go down as I'm walking, down the sidewalk. I look over to my right and see the cars parked there. And I kind of chuckle because there's a bunch of people, we're all walking. And I go, if this is a BLM ride, all those cars would be burning right now. And everyone's like, yeah, I know, right? Because I'm always looking for a joke, right? I'm always looking for
Yeah,
something.
why not? Gotta make
Um,
light of situations.
yeah. And so then I get back to the hotel. The girl I was with at the time, she was like, I was worried. I tried to call you. I was like, oh, no, it was fine. It wasn't a big deal. I fly back home to LA. And, within that week, I saw Nancy Pelosi was trying to designate MAGA as terrorist. And I was like, uh-oh. And then a week after that, you see people starting to get raided and they're throwing it on TV. And I actually thought, I go, well, I wasn't in any type of like protective gear. I had my jacket and a MAGA hat on, and I'm online a lot talking about it. I was like, so I just assumed I wasn't like who they would be looking for, right?
So do you think you were targeted because you had some sort of a presence online
I
and
know,
you
I know,
like
I was.
MAGA and MAGA is you were a person that supported Trump?
Yeah, I know I was. I know that back in 2020, September 17th of 2020, I was put on the Secretary of State censorship list in California. And I
Jesus.
found that out through the Judicial Watch Freedom of Information Act that came out in March of the following year. And when going through my case, we saw that California pushed them to come after me. So I know I was. Um,
That's wild.
oh yeah. So now I'm sitting there, and again, I don't think anything of it. Then we fast forward to June. It was actually a little bit after Memorial Day, and June 10th, that pre-dawn raid, they come into my house with 15 agents, guns drawn.
Wow.
They actually, because I just last week got it back because one of the things they took was my MAGA hat,
Really?
and I just got it back last week. You
That
see
is
here,
so funny that they took your MAGA hat.
yeah, you'll see here. This is the 45 one.
Yep, yep.
Yeah, so they took my MAGA hat, and as well as my computer, laptop, stuff that I've gotten back now, but I only got it back 3 years later.
So looking at it 20 years from now, are they gonna actually have MAGA hat as a symbol of hate? Do
No,
you think that they're gonna be able to successfully push that?
no, no,
Because
no,
we see
no, no.
symbols like Pepe the Frog and shit
Yeah.
like that,
No, no,
like,
no, it's
they
done.
push
It's over. It's
good,
over because like we're in the throes of power right now, and there's ongoing investigations that I know about, that they're getting to the bottom of. Like, we got to remember, they tried to kill Trump in front of his everybody.
and they tried to
So
kill him a second time when they
say
didn't
second
succeed the
time.
first time.
And so he's going hard in the paint. So he's going to get to the bottom of January 6th. He's going to get to the bottom of the election. Tulsi Gabbard just recently at the most recent cabinet meeting pointed out that there's evidence of the machine switching votes for during the election during 2020. So they're going to do this. Like Kash Patel, just he grabbed everyone's cell phone that worked in the office that worked on January 6th. So this is coming out. It's coming
Mhm.
out, and when people see the truth, they're going to understand that. I believe they're going to understand that the people who went there are actually patriots. They're
Of
actually
course.
they're heroes. That did the right thing. We're gonna get not only have people been vindicated through pardons of Trump, but we're gonna get vindicated in the annals of history.
Here's the thing. I wanna know who the agitators were, because there were obviously agitators there, and there were people who fought cops, did the wrong thing, right? Those people should get arrested. If they were Trump supporters, arrest them. But if they're feds if they're Antifa, they should also serve, because it's obvious there that there were things that went on wrong, right? Like there
Yeah,
was
yeah.
vandalism, there was violence that did happen. Now it's not as prevalent as they want to make it look, right?
Or
People,
is any leftist riot during the summer of love?
look at right now, look at the Teslas, right?
Exactly.
It's like that's just how. Look at what you call May 29th during Trump's first
I mean,
presidency.
I'm working on a project right now where a guy for the last 4 years who owns property was being terrorized by Antifa, and one
Yeah.
of the things they spray painted was have let your Molotov cocktail be your vote.
I mean, and if here's the thing, people, if you haven't read your Saul Alinsky Rules for Radicals and you don't know what's going on, if you read Rules for Radicals, all of the things that they're doing are things that Saul Alinsky talked about. Okay. It is not like anything surprise. And I've said it on here before. If you want to know the modern tactics, go on beautifultrouble.org. Beautifultrouble.org is the current Rules for Radicals, and all their strategies are there. Everything is there. So I want to get Nate G over here. He has a question for you that he heard that J6 was 1,000 9/11s. During your time, how many 9/11s did you personally see?
I only saw one, and that was back in 2001, that 9/11. And that morning when I was being picked up to go to a class in college and saw that plane. That was the only one I've ever seen. So that wasn't it.
So with your trial,
Mhm.
um, did it bring you closer to God and everything like that? And did you actually get arrested at all? Did you go to
Yeah.
jail at all for this? How long
Yes.
were you in jail?
So, well, first I want to go back to the people you were talking about, the people who did violence and all that
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
And one of the things that people miss when it comes down to like they're pissed off about the pardons, a lot of the people they picked up who were violent, about half of them were in jail and were in jail until Trump pardoned them. How long is assault on a cop? Most people don't even know. It's
Not
not
3 years.
exactly. That's the point. Right. So they don't. So most of them don't
That's
even
cruel and
know it.
unusual at that point. Where even those people that assaulted and fought the cops have a lawsuit for the federal government on their hands
Yes.
for holding them there for that long and not
Exactly.
giving them they have the right to a
Due
speedy
process.
trial, and there
So that
was no
and
due
that was
process
the
there.
that's right. That was the other part. As they're screaming for due process right now for illegals, they don't understand that there was no due process. People are in jail for 2 to 3 years without due process, right?
But they were
So
political prisoners,
exactly,
100%.
exactly. So I so what happened for me was I got raided on June 10th. They took my stuff, but they didn't arrest me then. But what it was used for was to besmirch my name, and it was
How
like,
scary was that too? How scary was it
um,
federal workers coming in and taking your stuff knowing that they could grab you as well? And
well, it was more frustrating. I was
okay.
pissed off. I was like, my family comes from Liberia, West Africa, and there was a 20-year civil war going on there.
Yeah.
People were being killed. And we came to this country, and I was born here, and it was like, this is not what America is.
Yeah.
So when I came out and my hands up and I was like, please don't shoot my dog. I'm like, are they serious right now? Like I've been in trouble before. I've gotten DUIs and I've been arrested. And I'm like, yeah, I did it. But like when you come in and you didn't do anything, I'm like, you guys are like, I was like, you guys are fucking kidding. Like this is
Yeah.
a joke. And
Yeah.
the whole time, I never felt like fear of them in that way. I never felt like, oh my God, I could be killed. No, I just was like, this is crazy. Like how dare you guys do this? Like that's how I really felt.
Yeah.
And I even, gave it to the officers in that sense. I was like, this is not America. I said it to the agent, the head agent. I go, look, I'm not a rich man, but what I do have is my name, and I'll fight to the death for it.
And I
And
mean, and this is an issue with conservatives, like the whole back the blue, and we trust all the police. And don't get me wrong, I have a lot of police that are friends, and there's good police, but you can't back them all. There are a lot of
right,
really bad because we saw during COVID, right? How many of them were just willing to do what they were told?
right.
And I harken back to the book Ordinary Men. I don't know if have you read it. Everyone
No,
should
I
read
haven't.
Ordinary Men. It's about how basically common people in Germany became
Oh,
killers.
yeah, I have heard of that. Yeah,
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 it's a
yeah.
great book to read because it talks to you about the psyche of individuals that, they were just because they didn't kill everyone, it doesn't mean that that they were good because just because they stopped killing after a little while made them good. Like
Right.
it is crazy.
Yeah. And so for me, that's what was going on right in my mind there. I was like, this is messed up. At the time, my godsons were in the house, living in the same house with me and my best friend. So they were, they were 3 and 6. They grabbed them. They cuffed my best friend out. I had another set of roommates in there. They took them And I'm like, this is insane. Like, I know I didn't do anything. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and I didn't do anything worth people coming in with ARs in people's faces. Like, you got to be joking. I only had, like, at the time, one shotgun that was in my closet of anything, right? And so they took me outside. They took my stuff. They left. 2 days later, LA Times, New York Times, Chicago Tribune, even the Daily Mail was like, Netflix actor rated. And I go, that's exactly what they were for. And actually, about 2 hours before they dropped the articles, I went on Facebook, and you can still find them, or Instagram. You can find them on Instagram now, where I go, guess what they're going to do? You're going to see them in the news write this thing because that's what they want to do. They want to break your character first, to the world. That's exactly what they did.
And they wanted to get as many famous or known people out
Yep.
there that they were there being evil J6ers
Yes.
destroying our capital
Right.
because, they want to take, and they want that was a scare tactic to everybody else that was there. Because if they can get Siaka Massaquoi, he's an actor, they can
Yeah,
get
they
me
get
too.
me.
Like they get that.
Exactly.
So maybe I should, like, I'm just gonna, and you saw all the plea deals that people tried to do,
Yeah.
and the plea deals ended up being worse. They still, it's not like these were plea deals like, oh, you just walked in, you're 60,
Yeah,
you've
no.
never had anything wrong, we're just going to give you a slap in the wrist. Like, no, you're going to go serve 3 years in jail. It's like,
Yeah.
are you serious?
People were getting like 6 months to a year. Like grandma with cancer, just
Crazy.
and the early plea deals. A lot of people like Brandon Strock talks about this, how he regrets taking his because it
Yeah.
had him say, Trump made me do it.
Yeah.
So a lot of those early plea deals, like people had to say Trump made him do it.
And the friggin' leftists used that in Congress.
Oh, yes,
So
they
much.
did. Oh,
Because
yes,
they
they did.
used it and they said, well, this one, we've seen so many of his supporters turn on him over J6 because they felt betrayed. And
Right.
it's like, no, you just have a plea deal that they were forced to sign. Like
Exactly.
there were very few that actually, and that's why it's always fake where you find like now, like people are like, I know a Republican that says this isn't what they voted for. And it's like bullshit.
Yeah,
Because
I'm
if
like, I don't
you
believe
didn't
you.
vote for what he's doing right now, then you didn't vote for him.
Yeah,
Because
you didn't
this
listen
is
to like
exactly what we all voted for. What he's doing now is what we voted for.
hundreds of rallies that he did over the last 2
He
years.
was
Like he's
never
talking about it
quiet about what
all
he
the
was going to
time.
do. He's going to tariff everyone. He's going to get rid of illegals. The only thing he hasn't done yet is build the wall, which I do
Yeah.
want to see that wall get finished.
Yeah.
But he's doing a lot of other things.
He's doing a
So
lot of other. He
he's
shut
doing
down the border, which he said he was going to do, and that thing is shut
it is
down.
incredible what's
It's like
going
at
on with
the
the
end of a
border.
bar
And like right
closed.
now, like Tom Homan is like moving around like a ninja. At some point he's just gonna pop up again.
Right.
Anytime he pops up and says anything, like my favorite quote from him is like, "Well, what about if you break up the families? The family can go too."
Yeah,
Like
they can go
I
with him.
love it. They can all go together. Like
Yeah, I met him on the way back
oh, he's amazing.
from Kentucky. I was in Atlanta, and they had me fly down to fly up, and I ran into him. I got to take a picture with him. He was on his way to
That's so
Chicago. I was like, "Yo, go get him!"
He's another pipe dream person. I would love to have Tom on here. He would be
Right.
so much fun to talk to. So
So then 3 years go by. At this point, in the 3 years, I have to revamp my career because I can't do anything in Hollywood.
yep.
I start my own sketch comedy group, What the Facts.
Real quick, did the
Mhm.
Friends of Abe do anything for you in Hollywood? Because I know the Friends
No,
of Abe is
they were pretty much shut down before that.
which is craziness, right?
Yeah,
Because like,
they
and what about the conservatives of Hollywood, right? Because obviously, like Vince Vaughn's been blacklisted, and Vince Vaughn was one of like the biggest comedy people ever. But
Mhm.
you have conservatives in Hollywood, right? Like,
Yeah, but Hollywood's a scared environment. They cultivate fear in that space so well. I mean, it's the reason why it was only what's his name, Shazam. Zachary Levi was the only one that came out in the big name. But like most, even one of my mentors was one of the biggest showrunners of some of the biggest shows in the early 2000s, and he was too afraid to say anything.
well, they
'Cause he's
wait
like,
till they're old, right? Like John Voight and
no,
things like that. Or
he's old, and he was like, if I say anything, I'll never work again. So
it's crazy.
the fear is still something that has been cultivated in the industry of Hollywood. The
Well, you have
fear
guys
is
who are
real.
obviously more right leaning, like an Adam Sandler and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Adam Sandler would never come out and say it. Mark
exactly.
Wahlberg is finally being more religious and open, and Chris
And
Pratt is the one.
that was
It's
still after
funny.
the fact.
And it's
That was
funny though,
still
yeah, and it's funny because now, like, Chris Pratt is on Halo and doing a lot of those
Mhm.
Bible readings. Where was he 4 years ago, 3 years ago with Biden? Like, he was
Quiet.
being quiet and making his money, and don't
Yes.
get me wrong, I'm happy when you do it, and again, Chris Pratt was another obvious one because he said things, right? He said things where you can hear him be like, "Alright, this is a
Yeah.
logical dude," right? He's not
Yeah.
he's even
Well,
if he does lean a little left, he's not fully there, and now for him that he's obviously a religious man, but again, at the same time, it's like, if you truly are religious, yes, I don't need you preaching 24/7,
right.
but I do want you to stand up when it's time to stand up. Be a man.
Yeah, no, I
And
mean,
now
but
it's easy to do it.
I think it's connected to just that soft feminized Christianity that we've had in our
Oof.
culture, mixed with the fear-based kind of politics that Hollywood
That's why I
is,
love
right?
Pastor Scott. We've had Pastor Scott on here a few times. Pastor Scott's incredible. He does not
He
back
does
down.
exactly.
I love Pastor Scott. He's amazing.
There wasn't too many of these guys coming up. Actually, and I even tell you, like there was the weekend before the election when we had like 10,000 people in Beverly Hills partying, like partying. I remember I'm walking around and this one female, this lady comes over to me, young. She probably looks like she's in her 20s. She's wearing a face mask and she goes, "Hey, it's really awesome what you're doing, but I'm in the industry and I'm too afraid to get my face seen." I was like,
Oh.
"All right." And she walked away and I'm like,
See,
"Damn,
for those people, we
sucks."
got to stop that. There's no more passes.
Yeah.
Like at this point, and if here's the thing, if we lose in 2026 and 2028, say that whatever reason that happens, right? And the leftists come back to power,
It's over.
but not even that. It can't be over. We still need to fight because the leftists never stop fighting, right?
Oh
But
yeah.
it's
No, I'm
those
saying
that
it's
go
over
back
like they're coming for us.
But it's those that go back in their shells
Yeah.
that do the whisper, absolutely not. And if you know them, call them out on a platform,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
it's over. Like if
You should.
if you're not actually gonna stand with us and be with us, your vote doesn't matter. I'm not gonna lie. Like I don't care that you vote the right way every few years. The
Well,
fact that
this
you're
is a
not
time.
standing up is the worst part.
Well, this is a time now. Like Trump went in a second time, and I think after him getting shot, really kind of changed how a lot of people can move.
It
So I
galvanized a
do,
lot.
yeah. So I do think that I'm hoping that it shifts, but I'm hoping it shifts. That's why I'm like excited about this kind of news storytelling space that is opening up here in Tennessee. In Kentucky, down in Atlanta, in Texas, a lot too. Woody Harrelson and those guys are doing stuff.
Yep.
We need to get it out of the coast where the mindset is that where it's harder to think to have it be that way when you're in the middle of Tennessee. It's harder because you have your culture is different here. So I actually want Hollywood to we shift out that we what was it decentralize the power of storytelling basically is what we can see there. So
Yes.
I think it's going to shift again in 10 years. When my kid's 10 years old, we're going to tell them, "I remember when you couldn't do this," and it's going to be amazing, I think. But back to J6 in a sense. So the 3 years go by. I start What the Fact. I actually in 2020 in
So with that,
2022,
Caveat Ties wants to know where they can find What the Fact.
you can find whatthefact.tv on Rumble. We're no longer together because I moved out and people had to, start making money because we weren't making money on it. But go check it out. I think it was hilarious and it was very pointed to the time. We did a bunch of sketches. But then I ran for office in Los Angeles in 22 because like I would make speeches telling people, "Hey, go run for office." And I'm like, "Well, how I can't tell you to run if I'm not going to do it." Right.
Is this
So
it
I
right
ran,
here? Is this the page?
there it is. There you go.
Okay, so go
There it
find
is.
that right there,
As you
everyone.
see, if you scroll down, you'll see like Antifa guy is great. That 90s show is amazing. Save a liberal, generic black Democrat. Like it's all great. I mean, I say everyone's very talented. My conspiracy lawyer is one of my funniest. That's my wife right there, actually in there. So, so it's Meet the Parents, White Guilt Gone. We have the FBI. We actually did a FBI raids conservative house. That was our response to after they raided my house. We actually wrote a sketch to make fun of them doing that.
See,
Right.
I would love for you to get with someone like Seamus Coughlin from Freedom Tunes. I feel like you guys have he does a lot of cartoons
Oh yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
make fun
I
of
met
this stuff.
Seamus. Yeah, I met him.
I feel like you guys would definitely hit it off, and he should have you voice act in something. I think that would be so much
I
fun.
would love to do that. But okay, so that's what actually going to lead to because then I ended up, I ran for office, and when I did my campaign stuff, I wanted to do something different. I didn't just want to do dinners and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So I would do comedy shows.
that's awesome, actually.
Right. And so when I did the comedy shows, I had this comedian, Adam Yenser, who was a writer for the Babylon Bee,
Yep, I've heard about him. Yep,
come.
yep.
And after the show, the guys from the Bee were like, "Hey, you should come on and do our podcast." I was like, "Yeah." So I went to do their podcast, and they're like, "You act? Do you want to do any sketches?" I was like, "Yeah." So so then I started doing sketches with the guys from the Bee. We ended up doing this great sketch called "California's Moved to Texas," which exploded, and Joe Rogan retweeted. It really kind of put us on the
I
map.
saw that one. I didn't know
Yeah,
that was you.
s-
That's
yeah,
awesome. Yeah, yeah. It's funny you don't know going
That's how yeah,
that's
right.
amazing.
So all this stuff was happening. It was amazing. And then I ended up connecting with some people over at Daily Wire, and I went to the Terror on the Prairie premiere in 22.
Mhm.
My wife and I, it was actually we were dating at the time, and then that's actually in that time is when we got we were getting closer to the Lord, because I met her and she was going to church. I wasn't. So I started going to church with her. We started reading the New Testament together, because the first time I ever read the New Testament
Which is one of the best books ever written.
ever written.
And I
And I,
tell everyone too, the New Testament is the way to live your life. Like that is
yeah, well,
the
that's what,
parables of the New Testament are relevant today. And it's like you could read it literally if you want, but if you just need guidance, go to the New Testament. You will find it in one of the stories.
oh, you're
Whatever
fine.
issues you have, you will find an answer.
Well, you'll find it all. I mean, I think it's the answer to all of it. And also, I think the other side of it is to show the glory of God. And when you start to see the glory of God, like that's the thing where you can, for me anyway, where it had me believe more, because I'm like, whoa,
Yeah.
like 3 years, and that's all it took for him to change the world. He wasn't like Muhammad going around killing a bunch of people and like taking over. He was just like, hey, this is how it is, and spreading such a radical message of the time.
And honestly, and it's interesting too, like you talk, like obviously Jesus was a Jew. He characterized the Jewish chutzpah more than anything with his
Oh yeah,
gall and the way he was able to go against the Pharisees and things like that and use the truth. And the
yeah,
truth is what allowed him
the
to
scripture.
overcome them. He used the word of God and what he knew to be true. And
Well, he
it's
was
just
God,
amazing.
right?
He was, yeah,
So, so,
exactly.
so, so, and that's the one thing too that I love. If Christians, I like to say this, because when I was been doing my studying and my work, it's like Christianity is the next extension of Judaism,
Yeah.
because in Judaism they're waiting for the Messiah to return as well. He already came. We know who he is Jesus Christ. And if you go back to the historicity of it, the first century Jews were more prepared for the return of Christ than they are today,
Yep.
because they were reading the prophets. They were preparing over and over. They're on the lookout. A lot of Jews, they aren't on the lookout for the Messiah, because that's not how they're being taught in the synagogues in the same way.
Yeah,
So
and
so if
it's
we
sad too because, like,
yeah,
they eventually, like, looked at Jesus as, yes, he was divine, but he was a heretic, right? But they never doubted his divinity in terms of his prophet to God, right? He was one of the
they used
closest
to not
prophet.
doubt him, and
Yeah,
now they
yeah,
now
and that's the thing.
but that
They were
was
saying,
because
like, he was the closest prophet to God, but he was not the son of God. That was his heretical nature from the Jews' perspective, right?
yeah, well, then they started to shift over with the Talmud, and they started shifting it, because a lot of the rabbis in like 5th century AD started to shift to push people away from Christianity, because the first 2 to 3 centuries, majority of their bishops and the Pope Peter, like they were Jewish.
Mhm.
The way the Catholic and the Orthodox Church work is like a synagogue, like that's where the tradition comes from. So when they started switching it
It's
over
so
in 500 AD, that's when like it started to shift in a place where they pushed it out so far away, because much like the Sanhedrin at the time for the Pharisees and Sadducees, they needed to keep power. And I think that sadly what has
100.
happened is that they're holding on to power. And so I think a lot of people are lost in knowing Christ because of that.
The one thing that's true is Jesus Christ is the only individual that is divine in all three of the Abrahamic religions. Because even the Muslims acknowledge that he was a divine prophet.
Right, right.
They don't, again, they don't believe he was a savior. They believe that again, they believe he was a heretic in that sense. But none of them like will doubt that he was touched by God. And the
Can,
difference is
can I
Christians
can I
believe he is the Son.
can I
So
can I can I say some controversial
of
to
course,
someone?
that's what we live for.
Uh, I only consider it two Abrahamic religions, because Islam is false, and they don't even have the Ten Commandments in there, so they don't have the law. We have the law. They don't even know it. They just kind of go, "Oh yeah, it's over there." But listen to this guy. To me, it's like Mormonism with Joseph Smith. Like they don't adhere to the Bible. They adhere to what is it, the Book of
Well, the
Mormon.
Quran.
So
Oh
it's
yeah,
like
yeah, the
both
Book of
both
Mormon and the
but
Quran.
both of them use a whole different set of movement in order to go, but like they have to go back to and take from Christianity or from Judaism to try to solidify their pillars, but they move completely away. And even the way to describe God our Father, like you can't, like God doesn't have a father, Allah doesn't have a father in Islam, so that's not the same God. He has two right arms, two right hands, and two right legs and stuff. That's not the same God as the God of the Bible and the New Testament. So how to me, it you can't say it's the same. It's one of the Abrahamic when literally we call him father, and you can't call him father in Islam. I'm like, wait a minute, that's a whole different person.
We'll call
So
him a cousin. That's I think they could be cousins because they've all there is similarities, but they are cousins. We can call them
well, no, because I think he's a demon. You ever hear about how Muhammad, when he described how he interacted with the spirit that he talked to? Did you ever
no,
hear
what
about
did he
that?
do there? No.
So in the Bible, every time somebody encountered an angel, they would fall to their face and fear, and the angels would say what?
They
They would
they
say
would say that, don't fear me.
exactly,
I am here I am here
e-
for God, right? I am
exactly.
rise.
So in for Abraham Muhammad's description to this was that he went into space, he went into this cave, and he felt pressure. He was totally feared, like he never felt this fear like this before, and yet there was never ever a "don't fear me," and he ran away. And it was like not his mother, but a female mentor was like, "Go back," and in a sense, go back. That was a prophet. So he went back in there, and he never felt so afraid and so much weight. That is actually how people describe being possessed. That's not how they've
Hmm,
described, and that's why it's not an Abrahamic religion. Because if you think about it,
that's
everywhere in
interesting.
Abrahamic religion, they'd be like, "Oh, I'm afraid," and they'd be like, "Fear not."
Yeah.
They always would tell them, "Don't fear." But how come over here, the one time they said, "Don't fear," and I'm supposed to follow then what that one says, where everywhere else in the Bible it says, "Don't fear." Anytime the messenger comes, come on, man. Like, yeah, I'm not
That
gonna
is
fall
interesting.
for it.
That's a good
Yeah,
that's a different perspective. That is
yeah,
interesting.
yeah. It's like, dude,
I'm
I'm
not
just like,
mad about
right?
it.
I saw it and I was like, oh no. I was like, this is how can anybody say it's the same thing? We don't call him father. They say he has two right hands. we or Muhammad describes it as a great pressure and great fear. And I ran away the first time. I'm like, nah, dude, you're not in the same book. You're not in the same area. Anyway, I just get off on that.
All I would like is for us to get rid of the Sharia believers. Period. Like honestly, like the hardcore Sharia followers, because
Well, you
there
got
is
to
a
get rid
lot
of the
more to the
faith.
Quran. There's a lot more to it, I will say, than just the Sharia part.
Well,
So
yeah, there is, but again, it's like Jesus says, if any part of the tree is rotten, a little leaven's the whole lump, right? So
yeah,
if you look at it, the man who they're supposed to follow, in Muhammad, married a 6-year-old, had sex with her, a 9-year-old, and threw her out when she was 17. So that's the person that's the core person they're supposed to follow as their belief system, as the number. Like, we're supposed to follow Christ, right?
yep.
And they're supposed to follow a man that was a warlord, that killed people, that went around and did, that actually, right, it's okay for you to go if you take a woman in battle, you can take her whether she's married or not, and you can marry her and have sex with her. Like, there's really contradictory type of movement that's at the core of it. What I think we see a lot is the human heart that does call out for God, because God says in the Old Testament, I wrote the rules the rules on your heart. So I think every human has that, wants to be loving to each other. But then if you look at, like, what are you following ultimately, if it's corrupted like that, even if we took out the Sharia part, there's going to be some part that says, well, I can marry a kid, right? And you're like, what are you talking about? No, you can't. You're like, I can hit my wife, right? It says over here, and sir, da, 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 da. You're like, no, 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 don't do it. So I think ultimately it's not the people, just like Ephesians 6, where it's like, we don't wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against rulers of this dark age.
Yeah.
It's not the individuals we're fighting against. It is actually the belief system, the principalities, that we have to just completely, like God did before, destroy it and move it out of the way. And we bring these people to us, as followers of Christ, and go, hey, here's the truth, brother. That's what I believe we do.
One thing that I've noticed too, though, is there is a lot of your theological scholars, right?
Right.
That you're laughing at Nate. We'll bring him up in a
Yeah,
second.
he's great. He's great. I love
Theological
Nick.
scholars that have criticized Christianity, right? And properly
Mhm.
so, as they've studied the scripture over and over.
Right.
We don't have those heavy Islamic theological scholars that are critical of their own
It can't
religion
be.
and find. But that's when the religion will mature, right? That is when you'll find more, because here's the thing, we can wrestle with things that happen in the Old Testament, because the Old Testament is a violent. God was a very, he says it himself, I am a jealous God, right? Like,
Mhm.
and he made sure that his followers, he was bringing them to heal. It
Mhm.
wasn't until his son arrived that he softened up, like
He didn't.
like
He
any
didn't. No,
dad
but he
does,
didn't
though. He
brother.
did in a lot of ways because
Yeah,
he allowed his son to speak
yeah,
in our way, and
yeah.
he wasn't
But do you
as
know? But
angry.
do you remember? You remember when in Pontius Pilate? This is something too. We got to know our historicity. When
Yep.
Pontius Pilate was like, "Yo, like this guy's innocent," and they were
Yeah,
like, they
yeah,
screamed, "No, no, no! Put it on us. We want
yep,
him to go."
yeah, yeah, yeah.
What happened 40 years after Jesus died?
Well, I mean, they suffered. The Jews.
No, even worse. The second temple was destroyed.
Yeah.
And the second temple was destroyed down to Josephus, down to one
Mhm.
man. They were wiped out, just like the Moabites were wiped out when the Israelites came through, because it was judgment. And if that weekend they were wiped out was the weekend of Passover, meaning all the Jews from the surrounding areas came in and they were taken out.
And that's
So
after they turned, though,
that's after
right?
they killed God.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's the same God, bro.
Well, well,
They
here's the
got
thing. It's
they
so
just got the message of like
I'm
directly from him, but it's the same because he even said, "Woe to those who heard me and did not follow; they will be worse than Sodom and Gomorrah." And then if you
100%.
look at what happened to at the temple, it's like that was their judgment.
I'm
They,
not saying that he softened up completely. I'm saying that during the time where Jesus was alive, like any
yeah,
father, right? He trusted his son
yeah,
and he allowed his son to work. So that's what I mean. It's not like in the Old Testament is him as just I'm going to put him in his 20s where he is just like, you're going to do it my way. I'm smacking you down when you don't listen, right? Like,
but
and
he does say, in for example, he says in Leviticus, this is something that blew my mind when I started reading the Old Testament. He would talk about how if you turn away from me, this will happen, 7 years famine, all this, that, and the other.
yep,
Even in that, before they talked about all the sacrifice, he goes, but if you turn to me and say you were wrong, and I will turn and confess yourself, I will turn back to you. That
yep,
is the same exact
yeah,
person Jesus was. So
yes,
even before the
in a lot of ways,
sacrifices
yes,
that they broke
yep,
down,
yep,
he was saying at the end of the day, you can go through all the crap when you do eternity. If you look at even Abraham, Abraham lied twice on his wife.
mm-hmm,
Abraham was a liar multiple times and a coward. And he turned back to God and was like, my bad. And God was like, okay, I love you. The
yeah,
same God
yeah,
that Jesus
yeah.
was. So but he's a God of justice, so that he said, I'm woe to those who turn away. And I was here. They got that in 70 AD when they wiped them down literally to the last man in Josephus in the inner room. So when we go through the historicity group, bro, I've been like getting into it so
I love
hardcore.
it.
When I
I'm
get to it, I'm like, whoa, it's so
I am gonna
crazy.
start calling people stiff-necked so I could be more like God in the Old Testament. Just
Yeah.
start call they are stiff-necked
Well,
people.
and
Like
he said, "Hey, Peter, or not Peter, Paul says that in Romans. He goes,
Yep.
the Jews are stiff necked people. That's why they're not gonna. That's why they're not going to come around.
Yeah.
So it's like that's why we always. That's what we're taught. Took a discipleship class. God is the same today, yesterday, and tomorrow. He doesn't change. So His love was still there. He just is also a God of justice, and so
It's
He
so
has to
funny
give
though,
love.
because there has to be the debate of because obviously God loved the Jews, right? And he loved
Yeah,
them because
he still loves them.
he created them with that chutzpah, with that
Yeah,
ability to look God in the face and go, "You're wrong." Because that's his image, and
yeah,
Jews have that uncanny ability more than Christians in a lot of ways, because Christians are better supposed to be better followers, where Jews are a little more they're the chosen, right? We can talk about how we are, but the Jews, there's a reason why Israel's so important. It's the chosen few. They are the people.
yeah.
We are the followers, but they're the chosen, and we even acknowledge that in Christianity, right? So it's like it's always interesting just to look at
Like how
like
they created.
how they created it.
Yeah,
God's just like, I created you guys to be jerks, and you
yeah.
are jerks, and I'm still gonna help you. Like, I
And I
knew
love
you
you.
guys were gonna
Yeah.
be this way,
See,
but
and
I'm still making you my
that's the
people.
forgiveness of the Lord, is that He knew how they were going to be and He still loved them.
You
But
are
to tell you the truth,
stiff-necked people. I love it.
there's I want to say in Galatians, he
Mhm.
Paul talks about visiting the Bereans, and the Bereans tested Paul to say who he was with the scriptures. And
Yep.
so Paul actually calls us to be like Bereans as Christians and test anyone who claims that to be Christian with the scriptures. So we're told to be just as testy, if you will, as the Jewish people are
Yes.
to our own. It's just our Christianity has gotten so feminized and soft that we miss, and I think most Christians we're biblically illiterate. So we don't actually like know what the Bible says. We know what it
Oh,
feels
I'll say
like.
this: I haven't truly read the Bible in a long time. Obviously, did Bible study when I was younger and this and
Yeah.
that, but I do. I need to read it more,
Get
100%.
into
And
it.
it's like
Are you
I enjoy
married?
it. Yeah, I'm married.
Okay, so let me give you advice. This is what me and my wife did the first time. So we started off in Matthew, and then I would read dispensationalist. I would read 1 through 10,
Mhm.
and she'd read 11 through 20. And we go through and do a chapter at a time, just one easy between the two of us. So like that way you kind of are learning together at the same time. You also giving space for one person to read and one person to listen.
Yeah.
And it take the time, and it's a moment for you to, as one flesh, to continue to steer closer together.
Yep.
So as you do that, and it's like no wait, you can discuss, we got into great conversations with each other. Just take like an hour out of your day, try to do it every day if you can, but if you can't, at least once a week, and just read one chapter at a time and break it up 10 to 10. And trust me, you'll get through it, and you'll just start to go deeper in it. And I think it will expand understanding, and it will, if anything, it will grow your relationship with your wife even more than you thought you probably could be, man. It's
That's
amazing.
not a bad idea at all. And listen, you can never I'm look at that. I'm not the best Christian, obviously. I don't go to church all the time. Like I'm
I'm not,
not,
yeah, no one's the best
but
Christian.
here's the thing. I have a relationship with Jesus. He is the savior. He is the one. Believe in God. I believe in the Holy Spirit. So it's like I've never, even though I haven't been the most practicing, I never turned away and I never will.
Mhm.
That's just
Good.
not in
That's
my nature.
great.
I'm not going to turn away from God. He is who he is. Anyone asks me, I'm a proud practicing Christian. You know what I mean? Like there is
Yeah.
not, am I devout? Not as devout as I should be, but no one is. We're human, right?
Right.
Even the most devout aren't devout. Like
No.
that's just, we're not
No one is
capable.
good. No,
We're
not
not
one.
capable of being that way. That's
Right.
we are at fault. So
Well, one of the good things you can have is like, and I heard this from this guy Antoine Daniels. He was like, the reason why it's important for us to read it consistently is because in each stage in our life we're different than where we were when we first read it.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So you'll get a different understanding as a father now, as a husband, than you got when you were like, I don't know, teenager going, all right, I'm supposed to get through this, and that's why they call it the living word, right? And it's so
Yeah.
beautiful because as even now, I'm in Psalms right now, and I'm like, oh my goodness, like this is amazing.
So do
But
you laugh hysterically whenever anyone decides to only half quote the part when the feminists are like, we're not going to listen to Christians and submit to our husbands?
yeah,
And then
yeah.
it's like, but finish the quote when it tells the man essentially to do the same thing to his
Exactly
wife.
the same thing.
That
Like,
we have these same
dude,
responsibilities to each other,
right.
that the woman
It's
needs to submit to the man while the man
submit,
also breaks apart himself in
yes,
order
as
to give
Christ
himself to his wife as Christ would
as
give to,
Christ
yeah.
would do to the
Ah,
church. Like that means I'm supposed to lay
yes.
my life down for you,
I'm
sweetheart.
supposed to lay my life down and I'm
Like that's
supposed
a
to
big
also
deal.
you are submitting yourself to me and I'm giving myself to you. We are
Yes.
giving ourselves to each other, which is why the ring was chosen to
Yeah.
be the symbol. And it's like, they take this and it's like, if you don't want to submit to your significant other, then there's no reason
Then
to
what are we
be with
doing?
them, right?
Like, what are we doing?
You're not one anymore. The whole
Yeah.
purpose of marriage is to become a different being together. Like you
Yeah.
are together
And,
as one.
and like
There
it
is no
says,
separation anymore. It's
like
ridiculous.
my wife and I joke, right? Because this one part I think is Corinthians is like, your body is not yours, it's hers, and her body is not hers, it's yours. So she'll be like, give me that ass. I'm like, you give me that ass, right? Or give me my ass, right? You'd be like, give
Yeah,
me
give
mine. And I'm like, so,
me.
so it like tells us in there. It's really funny. Like, or like I love the quote, like love is love, right?
Mhm.
And that one that they've been using, even
Oh,
Gavin Newsom used that when they were trying to pass Prop 1 to kill babies in the womb up to
it's
9 months.
ridiculous.
And I always like to
I mean,
say,
pedophiles use it when they become
right,
maps, right?
right, pedophiles, the LGBT community, all that. And I say
Mhm.
like this, well, what did God say love is? Because that's the reference you're going to.
Yeah,
And
love has a definition in the Bible.
yes, and that's the part that as Christians, that's why I'm like, we can't be biblically illiterate because we've watched them. You should check out this movie, Nefarious. Nefarious is where like a demon is like in a person's body, he's like talking to this guy, the psychologist, and he
I've
goes,
heard of that. It was
"Oh,
recent, right?
truly,
Pretty
yeah,
recent
it's like a couple
affairs?
years ago."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And he's like, "We know more scripture than any man could ever know." And if you stop and think about it, it's so true because the enemy uses that little bit of scripture, and Christians who are biblically illiterate go, "Oh, well, does that I remember hearing about that in the word. So yeah, maybe I should just shut up."
Yeah,
But
no,
if,
they turn our words against us 100%.
exactly. But if we don't know it and be as Bereans as Paul tells us to be, which push back with scripture, then we
Mhm.
sit back and we go, well, okay, go ahead and kill your baby because love is love. Go ahead
Yeah.
and have sex with a 9-year-old because love is love. Like,
But
yep,
there's a
God
reason,
is love.
and as Christians, as we know, when something feels wrong. There's a
Mhm.
reason why. And
Yes.
the thing is, even if you don't know the scripture, if something feels wrong, stand up. Stand up and don't back down.
Yeah.
Like, period. Like,
And pray, right? So if you
and
know
pray.
something's wrong, pray, ask the Lord, help me to stand up. Like that's why we all need a savior, because you can go, Jesus, help me to stand. I know it's wrong. I need to stand here. Help me. And we talk about J6, brother. Like, this is why I'm so passionate about it here, because I have seen him work in my life in this situation. He literally was with me when I was in jail, when they arrested me on the tarmac on November 30th of 23, ripping me away from my wife. Like, they literally, that moment on, the Lord was with me. That night in jail, I fell asleep with a Bible in my arms. The next day, I'm going to the sheriff's office or U.S. Marshals, and I'm wearing the same clothes I was wearing from the plane. I had this barber was it barbarous shirt? Sorry. And so at the back of it, it had Jesus saved. And the guy next to me who were walking, both of us are in chains. Like, I'm in chains, my wrists, my waist, my ankles. And he's this big, like 6'2" white dude, tatted up. And he's like, and I was just thinking, oh man, like there's a Nazi, right? And so he sees this shirt and he goes, hey man, nice shirt. And I go, oh yeah. I was like, well, Jesus saved my life. Da-da-da-da. We start talking. We start going back and
You had the
forth.
American History X moment, right? Instead,
Yeah,
you were the Edward Norton character this time.
Yeah, and it was in color.
Exactly.
It was crazy.
That's my favorite movie of all time, man. That is
Really?
emotional. Oh yeah, because the
My
message in American History X is so real,
Yeah,
right?
we
In
can get
so
there.
many ways, it's
Yeah.
so real, and the emotional roller coaster of just hearing him talking as a Nazi and how fascist and leftist work, where they bring facts but they're so loosely real, right?
Yep. And
As
they're
he's
emotionally
preaching,
based.
and they're emotionally based. And then
Yeah.
when he gets into prison and he meets a black person and they have so much more in common, and now he comes out a changed man. But then it's like, okay, then it's the reverse, where his brother is now not a skinhead anymore, but he gets killed by the black kid. And it's like,
Yeah.
it's
Like, whoa.
so
Yeah,
wild.
that was pretty heavy.
It was great. It was Edward Norton's best work, 100%. Better than
Yeah.
Fight Club. And I will fight anybody on that.
Yeah. No, I agree with you.
Fight Club's amazing. Don't get
And I
me wrong.
actually really liked him in Incredible Hulk, but that's a whole nother thing.
Oh,
So
he
I
was,
thought
but
he
he's
was
the best
great.
Hulk.
I
He's
thought
the
he was
best
the
Hulk.
best banner. Yeah.
Easily. By
Uh,
far the best Banner. He's believable that he's really, really smart.
yeah.
Where Mark
Yeah.
Ruffalo, you can't believe that because you hear him
He's
in real
just
life.
an awkward, like, he's special needs guy, Mark
Well, they never
Ruffalo.
use it, right? They never make it. And here's the thing, they didn't help Ruffalo because they never made him do anything technological. As Tony Stark's being intelligent in the comics, it
Yeah.
is Stark, Pym, Banner, and Reed always
Yeah.
working together,
Yep.
and Spidey hanging in there because Spidey's also a super
He's
genius.
a super smart
Right?
kid, right?
So it's like, and he's a kid. He's not the accomplished professors and scientists like they are. Those four are like the core four of
Those are
Marvel
the
that
top.
figure everything out. So
Exactly.
we could nerd out so much right now. So
They're like the best Hulk by mine. Nate G, please follow me, man. We're already homies, brother. I already like you.
I'm going to get to a few of these
So-
comments, and then we're going
yeah,
to run out of here because we've been
yeah,
going.
yeah. We gotta
I
go. We
love this.
gotta
We'll have
go.
you back on 100%. We got to get you on when David's on. So let's see right here. Caveat ties jumping in saying he struck people dead in the New Testament for just pretending they gave away money. He did do that. That is true.
See, I know.
He said if you're a dispensationalist, yeah,
Yeah,
God is love. That is right.
yeah,
And also to love one is to bring that person to the one and true God in the fullness of his grace and justice.
yeah.
Absolutely. And there you go. There's your definition, right? One of them. There's a few,
There's
but
a
that
few.
is one of
Yes.
the main core ones. Jesus saves is what he raved in the typical tattoo green. And best Hulk by a mile. And he
Yes,
said 100. I'm already there. Phenomenal guest.
dude.
Nate,
Nate
Nate,
G. I
Nate
love
G's the
it.
man. He'll be
Yeah,
one of your best follows. You will love it. He's awesome. I have great caveat ties is great. I have a few people that pop in here, and that's
that's
the one
awesome.
fun thing too about having such a small. I'm like as much as I do want the podcast to grow always, right? But
Yeah,
having a small one, having my core group that come in and talk, it's like so fun.
you
Just
get to
always
learn each other. You get to learn each
absolutely, and
other.
I have
That's
I
so
have
great.
fantastic followers that come in here every time and support us. But we definitely have to have you back. This has been
Yeah,
lots of fun. I always make the joke, I'm not Joe Rogan. I can't do a 3-hour podcast and people won't listen. But
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 I can get to 2.5. I can do
we're there.
2.
We're close. Yeah, we're getting close. All right. But so I want to give you a chance real quick. I want to throw up here. This is your Give Send Go Defense Fund page.
Yep.
Even though your trial's over, there's still cost, right?
Yeah,
So,
I only have because people have been helping. I only have about 12 grand left to pay off my lawyer,
and
and
you
I
can
think
see it right here.
everyone.
Your goals right here with 210.
Yep. And so I like to thank everyone else that have been giving it all and praying. You see right there the 1948 right there. So
Mhm.
people the praying the prayers have gone so far. So I think anyone that has been helping out. And so yeah, if you can, every little bit counts. And thank you for allowing me to be on here and to share this
100%.
because I think it's amazing that we get a chance where I discovered you. Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
On the yeah, there you go. So yeah, I was got to hang out with Larry Elder a few times. He's great. I did his show, Dinesh D'Souza. So a lot of great guys have come out to help. I'm hoping this stuff starts to get exposed in a way, and Trump will actually give us restitution sooner rather than later. So then we don't need help anymore from outside. But your prayers go so far, guys. So thank you.
Absolutely. And I also want to give a shout out here to your shop because I freaking love
Yeah,
this logo, man.
yeah, guys.
I'm definitely going to go cop a shirt because this is amazing and I will wear it happily on, on the shirt and everything like that.
Dude,
I'll rock it on the show 100%.
honestly, guys, like if you don't want to just give to the gifts and go, buy a shirt. Like go buy a shirt,
Like,
buy some
look at all
shorts.
this. Like, this is
Buy,
like, and here's all your products. There's
yeah,
your
and then
video there,
our
your ads there.
commercial.
Yep.
Yeah, this is like and right there, my baby was like, if you scroll down right there, that's my wife and my baby and my dog.
That's awesome.
He is actually, oh man, I want to say he was maybe a month and a half or something at that time. Yeah, so it's so cool now he's walking. So it's such an amazing, times going
So
on.
we got to get this out there. Everyone go support the new rebels. I think this is a really cool. I just like the whole like the afro with the mean mugging and the shirt and the hat
Yeah,
and
yeah,
everything. Like the
yeah.
whole look is just awesome.
Thank you,
Um,
brother. We,
I like it.
we're inspired by the old school. My buddy, I was telling my best friend who's from Nebraska, who he played baseball, and he was like, "Man, I just think about that old Reggie Jackson baseball card where he had the fro sticking out of the hat."
Yeah,
I
that's
was like,
awesome.
"Yeah, so that's like Reggie Jackson inspired right here."
That's amazing.
Thank you.
So Caveat Ty said, "Are you on Criticalist? Do you know what Criticalist is?"
No, what is that?
Jump on there. It was started by an individual who wanted to make an answer for Rotten Tomatoes and for IMDb. And if you go to Criticalist, it's all fans leaving their own reviews. They could do a percentage of how good it is. They can say a bunch of things, and then it's a community, and then people leave comments on that.
Okay.
It's an awesome community. So I 100% promote you go over to Criticalist. We had the creator on not too long ago. And Caveat Ty saying that's where he discovered you was Criticalist, or discovered
Well,
me, or discovered Siaka. Either one of us. But that's awesome.
now we're all discovered.
Yes.
Yeah, get the
Yeah.
leggings. They're
Nate
pretty
saying
dope.
those leggings are cool. Need some Zubaz, Napoleon Dynamite pants with that logo. Oh my god. Get that logo with the red, white, and blue. Want to
Oh
get a
yeah,
roundhouse to the face wearing someone wearing these
dude.
bad boys? I don't think so.
Get them, and I will make it a new commercial if you wear it and do a roundhouse kick.
Oh
That
my
would be
god.
so
You should
great.
get someone that looks like
That was
Napoleon Dynamite.
that'd be
That
so great.
oh, that would be amazing. But Siaka, thank you so much for coming on, man. This was awesome. This was such a fun conversation.
Thank you, bro. We went all over the place. I
Oh,
love
I
it. We
love it.
went all
I
over
love
the
it.
place. Lord of the Rings comics, and if you see back here, I got like Spider-Man versus Superman. I got Superman versus Muhammad Ali.
I love
I
it.
got Batman, Superman versus Wonder Woman. So yeah, dude, I'm big into it.
I got my Lord of the Rings back there.
There
I
you
got my
go.
Civil War and
There you
everything.
go.
Yeah, I got it all back there. Like it's just I love my little thing. I add to it all the time. I got my Star Trek because I'm also a Trekkie.
Oh
Like I
yeah.
got a little bit of everything
Next
going on.
generation.
TNG, yeah, Next
Yes,
Generation.
there you go.
Well,
Me too.
Deep
Deep
Space
Space
Nine is my
Nine.
favorite. It's the best one.
Forget about it.
Deep Space Nine is the best Star Trek.
I watched that on Netflix like a couple years back, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is great."
Yeah,
So
Next Generation's great, but Deep Space
Deep
Nine
Space
is
Nine is
better.
next level. You're
Yeah.
right. You're
Oh
right.
yeah. Oh yeah. It's the
And
best.
dude, we could get into this. Okay. Anyway, we gotta go to bed. This is crazy.
Yes. So once again, he is Siaka Massaquoi. You can go and find him on Instagram at Siaka_Massaquoi and on X at _Siaka Massaquoi. You got to switch that up a little bit.
No, I like
So
that. Yeah.
we appreciate that. Definitely go follow and everything. Go follow us. Just go look for Alex Questa Show everywhere. Like, share, follow, subscribe, all that good stuff. And we'll be back Wednesday Right now, I have no idea who my guest is going to be Wednesday. I'm not going to lie. We had one lined up, didn't work out, but maybe if not, me and Dave will pop on. And Siaka, if you're not busy, jump on in. We
Next
might just
Wednesday?
be talking some mess.
Yeah, we
this
could.
Wednesday.
I may visit, but next Wednesday.
Yeah, if not, if we have a guest, you could just come hang out. If not, and we're just shooting the shit with me and my brother, you can come pop in.
Awesome. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. And thank you so much for having me on the show. This is so much fun. I love chatting with good people that we just connect. And who knew an African and a European could get along this well, huh?
Yeah.
Only in America. Only in America.
Hey, listen, I'm a damn American. I ain't even know European. I'm an American, damn it.
I'm American too, brother. Let's do it.
All right, everyone. Thank you.